How's it going, everyone? And welcome to the last show of the year for No Excuses on VTWProductions.com and YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts are still.
Venerian.
And Volacel, and we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week, or more specifically, the roundup of the awards from the Game Awards, which we are going to generously consider as though they are actually worth talking about.
It is very generous, yes.
But first of all, if you would like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in our Discord server, which you can most easily access by clicking on the link to the Discord server in this video description, or you can go to vtwproductions.com and click on the show logo on any of our recent show posts, and that'll take you directly to the Discord server, where you can chat with show hosts and other listeners to the show.
Yes, indeedy. So, this is going to be a very visual-heavy show, but for the little bits that we're not actually doing visual stuff for, on the stream today, I'm playing a little bit of Terraria, which is modded up to the eyeballs.
So can you still see that it's Terraria?
Oh yeah, it still looks like Terraria, and I've deliberately picked out all those really annoying meme mods, which pop up a lot.
So everything isn't Shrek, for instance?
Not everything is Shrek, though I think there is actually a mod that does that. I've got mods that add new boss fights, entirely new mechanics, and things like that. Some of them do still have a few memes, like when I just started that footage, you just actually saw me pick up the old nail, which is oddly familiar. There is later on, you get the tailor, and I'm not sure which mod does it, but you can actually buy from him the useless goddess outfit. So, yeah. Unfortunately, because I'm playing it both on expert mode and with mods, everything's going to kill me. Horribly. So, this is all pre-recorded, by the way, so whatever, I'm not... Just being bad is what I'm going to be doing on this stream, really. But, like, in the base game, even in expert mode, you can skip some of the base tier of armor. You can just jump straight to gold armor without being penalized too bad. Not so much with me with the mods. You're going to die. You're going to die a lot. So anyway, that's that.
Why is it always Shrek? Have you ever noticed that?
It is always Shrek. I don't know why, but it is always Shrek. It was a thing for a while.
I don't want to know how old Shrek is.
No, don't.
Digimon movie old. So
Don't.
early 2000s without a 10 in it?
Yeah, the noughties. Anyway, my week this week, we'll just jump straight in. It has been fairly quiet on the gaming nerdy front.
2001.
Why?
So, almost 2 decades ago.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
And the only reason I know this, that knew it was in that ballpark, is because Smash Mouth's original big hits didn't debut in Shrek. They debuted in the Digimon movie, which came out right before Shrek.
Yeah, but people only remember Smash Mouth because of Shrek.
That's why Shrek made them memorable. But that is not where they premiered those songs.
Yeah.
You were so defensive about the Digimon movie.
Because it is a terrible piece of media that just needs to be remembered so that its mistakes aren't repeated ever again.
What, like Sonic Fox?
Yes. They learned, but we'll come back to that later.
Oh, did they? We'll see.
They did. So yeah, my gaming this week has been 2 things, really. First and foremost is I've decided to finally, stop derping around, sit down, and actually play through Pillars of Eternity. I've managed to get my way up to the final boss, although I've still got some companions who don't have their stories finished.
I did not finish the game, but I enjoyed every minute I put into it. And if I hadn't got distracted by other things, I would have loved to keep going.
Yeah. So Pillars of Eternity is your isometric RPG type dealie, the old Baldur's Gate style thing.
It was one of 3 in that blob. The Planescape Torment guys did one. There was Pillars of Eternity, and then there was, what was the other one? Divinity.
Divinity, yeah. And later on you end up with Pathfinder Kingmaker.
Yeah, but those initial 3 that I mentioned were released, within 3 months of each other, or something crazy close like that.
Yeah, there's kind of a big rush for that sort of game. I actually like Pillars of Eternity 2 better than I like Divinity.
I like Pillars of Eternity because you can make the characters move at not a snail's pace.
Yes, you actually have a fast forward button for, parading your way through pre-explored areas.
Yeah, because I liked what Divinity had to offer. I thought there could have been some cool stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't make it past chapter 3 or 2 or whatever, like, this third area you go to is.
The thing I like about Divinity
You move too slow.
Yeah. Pillars of Exile is a lot faster and a lot of quality of life things, but Divinity I like it in some ways more because it's not afraid to stop taking itself so seriously. Like, Pillars of Eternity never lets its hair down.
No, it's a very thorough module for whatever world, this new world they've set up that is serious business main plot the whole way through.
Yeah. Here's your gods, they're really quite horrible. Here's a god who went AWOL. Here's the tactical nuke that the people retaliated with. Here's a grizzled old fart who is designer of said tactical nuke, and he just follows your character around all game being miserable the entire time. Damn it, Durance. Why do you have to be so useful?
He's the crazy dwarf man.
Yeah, he's
also horribly, horribly racist.
Oh, he is incredibly racist. Mind you, to be fair, he's pretty horrible to everyone, especially his own god. So, I mean, he's just horrible.
His god did, blow up part of his soul with a nuke.
Yeah. And then tried to kill him again later.
His god wasn't exactly a nice person.
None of the gods really are.
No.
But, yeah, I'm up to the final boss, although I think I might need to actually back out and grind a little bit before I take him on, because he's a big cheaty McCheetah face.
I see.
Yeah, I'm not... Oh, that or there's a mechanic I'm missing. Which is more likely. Besides, there's a whole bunch of extra content there I haven't done. Like, I haven't done the siege, which is supposed to do maybe mid-game.
Mm-hmm.
Nor have I really touched the expansion content. I actually unlocked the expansion content fairly early, and you can go there at any time. It's supposed to scale down if you're coming at a lower level, but there seems to be a minimum level it will scale to.
Makes sense.
You go there too early, you're going to get smushed. So that is that. I really wanted to get through it because I wanted to move on to Pillars of Eternity 2. But you need to really finish the first game, both for context, because even the prologue and intro for Pillars of Eternity 2 doesn't cover much. It's a very brief recap of what happened in the first game. So if you haven't played the first game, you're going to be left with a lot of questions. But also because it lets you import your save state over. Not the character, though. You can actually roll up a new character who is technically the same character, but doesn't necessarily have to be. I think it's only technically the same character because of the way that souls work in that universe.
Yeah. It's, yeah, there's a whole lot of... Because it's so main story anything, everything is spoilerific that you mentioned about Pillars of Eternity. There's no real way to dodge it.
Yeah.
So it's hard to talk about stuff with it.
Yeah, so I played maybe the first couple of minutes of it and then realized, no, this is all spoilery. I know what a lot of these things are, but when it's talking about a situation where, oh look, El Protagonist should have been turned into living gravy right at the start of the game. It's kind of, skipping over a few things.
Yeah.
Anyway, the other game I really only played this week, I stuck my face in, played a little bit of Destiny 2 just because I felt like doing a bit of shooty bangs. It hasn't changed all that much.
Well, I wasn't really expecting it to.
Yeah. When you roll up a new character, though, you do have all three aspects for your character available, though not necessarily everything unlocked in them. So if you want to be, your Fire Warlock or your Thunder Titan right from the get-go, you can. That's more of a quality of life thing. If you start up a new character, it does a very short tutorial area where you just run around and you shoot at one of those spider bots and probably die in that area. And then it just dumps you into the main hub to pick up right at the start of the original story. If you import a character from the PlayStation or from the earlier version, it seems to set you straight onto the newest story.
Right. Regardless of where you had progressed?
Seems so, yeah.
It seems odd.
Yeah.
But okay.
The new hub is a lot more accessible than the farm. The farm was pretty awful.
The farm was the possibly the single least inspired hub I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was like the opposite of the Infinite City in Warhammer Age of Reckoning.
The Infinite City was just infinite because it was so damn big. But yeah, everything is there in that first hub. There's you got to do a bit of running around, but if you need it, it's there. And of course, when you spawn in, there's the Everburst lady because duh.
Got to get them shekels.
Got to get them cash money.
The can of worms has already been opened. There's no closing it now.
Yeah, well, at least they actually, they give you some content now without you having to pay for a full priced game 3 times or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've actually pulled it down through Steam, it seems like I've got the first 2 story expansions already.
They're not worth the time. Don't do it.
They're just bad.
Don't do Mercury at all for any reason. There's no reason to subject yourself to that.
Imagine a game which thinks that dailies are content.
Dailies are not content.
Now imagine a game that is just dailies.
Why?
That's Mercury.
Let's just not go to Mercury then.
We don't go to Mercury.
We don't want to go to Mercury.
The only people you will see on Mercury on Disney nowadays are just the diehard Chivo hunters who didn't play back when Mercury was relevant content.
Or people who just haven't cottoned on yet.
Yeah, nobody wants to go to Mercury.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it for my week. Otherwise, just staying on top of the animes. Has Hero Aka actually put out an episode this week? I can't say.
I haven't been keeping up with it. My motivation is always a bit lower during serious arcs than it is during the more fanciful ones, because honestly, I like Hero Aka the most when it is being optimistic, and I find it a little bit tiring when it's being edgy. Which is not to say that it's not good, because I did read most of that the current arc in the manga, but I'm just not quite so enthusiastic to follow it, because the end of the week comes along and I'm feeling kind of tired and I don't really want to subject myself to that.
Yeah, like where it is at the story at the moment, everything is about to go to hell in a handbasket.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah, you've got this new big bad who's hanging around. The old big bad's also still hanging around and being creepy.
It's pretty much all he ever does.
It's pretty much all he ever does. The ultra bad is up to something, even though he's in jail.
I'm not sure if he's actually up to something, or whether it's just like he's knocked over the first domino and everything's going to be just as planned from this point onwards.
Well, from what I can gather, in that case, his first domino is All Might. So, yeah. We shall see. I am very much enjoying the series still. So I want to see where it goes. What else is really going on? Kimono Michi continues to be complete nonsense.
Well, that's what it's best at.
Yeah, now that the princess has re-entered the scene, German suplex are abound.
I'm not sure whether or not I feel bad for her.
On the one hand, like, she's the princess, she's got a job to do, but on the other hand, she's kind of a brat.
Yeah, she's bratty and pushy and just thinks that everything should go her way because that's what's supposed to happen.
And she never alters her approach.
No, she's determined, I'll grant her that.
Yeah. So, the rival has turned up and things are going to get shenanigery. At least Genzo has stopped traumatizing Wolfgang in the last episode I watched.
Oh, well, it's probably just the one episode break, I'm sure the trauma will continue.
Yeah.
Hold on,
Well,
what episode was the most recent episode you watched?
last one
'Cause-
was. I'm 1 week behind because I'm not going to pay for a second.
Oh,
anime stream.
well, then, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, it didn't so much traumatize Wolfgang and Co. as just beat the ever loving stuffing out of them.
Yeah, I'm sure that he'll find another reason why Wolfgang needs to suffer.
He didn't
mean,
really do anything
him-
all that bad in the first place.
Yeah, but he doesn't learn his lesson ever.
No.
That's the thing. He still ends up, being a criminal and trying to. Eventually, the focus always devolves to getting revenge on Genzo, and that's like your Team Rocket at this point. You need to think about your health and your future.
They really do fit into that Team Rocket mold perfectly. It's kind of worrying, actually. Even though Team Rocket, during one of their arcs, actually developed some sort of competence, which I was surprised to see. Don't worry, they got better. Yeah, it didn't. Sun and Moon anime came around and they're back to their usual idiotic selves. What else? Shokugeki, Food Wars. I have no idea exactly what Soma is thinking he's doing at this point with that.
Yeah, it's just making less and less sense as it goes along, and I don't think it's necessarily in a good way either.
Yes, to beat
I think
the Elite 10, you need to beat me.
I feel like the pace is not helping either.
No,
Like
it's not.
we're sub-Namek pace at this point. Like
Ew.
it's getting pretty rough.
Yeah. So yeah, it's as long as they don't just ditch it and finish this series mid-arc again, because they seem very fond of doing that.
I think it is entirely likely that will happen.
At the rate they're going, yeah, like they're going to hit their episode limit and have to stop. What else? Still chipping away at Fire Force. Thoroughly enjoying that, even though it is definitely not the most optimistic piece up for grabs at the moment. But yeah, it still has its problem with the tone of swinging wildly between grim and depressing and stupid. Or being stupid while being depressing. Which is kind of weird.
Yeah, the worlds that creator usually creates are very they're very schizophrenic in tone. Oftentimes, like there's like things that are just objectively horrible are often happening, but the entire thing is like the world is fundamentally comedic in a lot of ways, and it's always quite a weird mismatch. They're usually quite popular. The Soul Eater's the most well-known example where everything is really silly.
Yes.
But the bad guys are like genuinely horrifying.
Yep. You've got, actually, the last episode I watched last night was the unveiling of the villain in Squad 1. He's being genuinely horrible to both his squad mates and children, but at the same time he's also keeping up his ridiculous affectations as well.
Yeah, like he's kind of nuts. Like, and the thing is that he's not like, oh well, he's actually legitimately insane nuts. He's just a fanatic.
Yeah, but keeping up his silly little speech quirks and things like that just make him seem even more nuts. So, yeah. Anyway, that's my week really. I'm going to throw you under the bus, Fall. What you got? Right.
I don't remember anything that happened this week. It's been one of those weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah, not far off from that. Yeah, the Christmas event for FGO hasn't started yet, but the previews are up. So, lots of people are locking their wallets away because apparently the Ereshkigal Galbana is one that tends to defeat a lot of people's self-control. Historically speaking, and that's coming up. But I'm not really planning to roll for her since I'm not a huge fan of her character. Like, she's more or less Rin with the Dere part turned up to maximum, and very little Tsun. So, she's a little bit too nice in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. Like she falls too hard for the protagonist in Babylonia, in my opinion, with very little interaction between them. I mean, it's sort of like in context you can sort of understand it, since she like never leaves the underworld or anything, doesn't have a lot of human contact, and so someone being nice to her tends to be a bit overwhelming. But she's a little bit too gushy and simpering for my taste. But I finished Salem. Now Salem was really good in the first half that I had played. Second half, it wasn't bad per se, but I felt like they didn't quite stick the landing. I felt like the pacing was a little bit off. I think the elements were there to do it right, but it didn't quite come off as slickly as I think that it ought to have, and that may in fact be an artifact of translation. It's hard to say, but it's like it doesn't. The actual genius behind it doesn't really make itself known until you spend some time thinking about it as the final chapter of an arc, rather than it as an individual story. Because as an individual story, it's just it's kind of a damp squib the way that it comes together at the end. But as a combination of an arc, it makes a lot more sense. So, except for the end, the very, very, very end, like the post big final fight epilogue where everything is resolved and the singularity is about to disappear. Like the Deus Ex Machina they pull at the very end is a bit, yeah.
Oh dear.
It's I don't know if that's going to be referred to later, if that's important in some way, if it's going to form a foundational piece of lore for later on. But it coming out of the blue like that with very little warning, it's just a bit cringy. Like I think that it would have made more sense to have the cost of defeating the enemy be higher, rather than try and salvage things at the last minute with something that hadn't really been suggested at any point up until then. And I don't know what the deal was with all the cats.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it without spoilers. And even if I did explain it without spoilers, it wouldn't make any sense. So, yeah. They aren't even involved in the story. They just appear.
They're just there.
And then they're gone again.
Suddenly, cats. And suddenly gone.
The thing is that a lot of this stuff might be like Lovecraft references. Okay. And I wouldn't know because I haven't read any Lovecraft.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently there's quite a few of these scattered throughout. But I don't really have much of an appreciation for that, so I can't really comment on it. But the sense of the way it all comes together is quite interesting once you look at like what are the elements that are in common between these arcs, and how exactly does Salem epitomize that? Why is that a different take on what they're doing? A lot of the stuff which is just kind of about the earlier one sort of makes sense when you put all of the intermission arcs in context with each other and the themes that run through them. It also makes it very clear that Seraph was meant to be part of the arc. And I don't understand, to this very day, I don't understand why they made it an event and not a proper singularity. Because number one, it's written better than some of the singularities. And number two, it makes a lot of sense and fits in with the themes and continuity taking place during Arc 1.5. So I don't know why they had it be a limited time thing. They've only ever rerun it once, and even in Japan. So it's never been rerun in the English service. So I don't really know what the reasoning or approach was there. I guess they felt like because it was a crossover, it couldn't be part of the main continuity, but the reality is that in FGO everything is a crossover anyway, so why worry? It doesn't really make much sense. But so when you look at them individually, you can see you only see like, somewhat simple stories, but there is a common thread that runs through them, and that's about, basically it's to do with the power of narrative and the inevitability of people following narratives and what it takes to oppose them, or whether or not you can even oppose them. And so in Shinjuku, basically the bad guy harvests his power out of stories. Essentially, he does the like Final Fantasy VIII junctions, myths and fables to himself in order to gain additional abilities, and does that for the other servants that are working for him as well, to give them, basically create synthesize composite legends with additional abilities. So in that process, though, the enemy binds himself to the precepts of those stories. So if you know how to work with those stories, you can force him into a corner.
Mm-hmm.
Because in order to have the power of the story, he has to obey the rules of the story. That's what it comes down to. In Agartha, there are a few sort of hints of that. Like you've got various characters from Chaldea who are overtaken by stories that have been imposed upon them by force by the bad guy at the end. And it's the weakest story of them, but it also introduces the concept of utilizing the elements of a story in order to undermine magecraft as a whole throughout the world, which is a theme that comes back for Salem. For Seraph, it's a slightly different take on the story in that it's a story that's taken place across a series of parallel worlds, and so the demon god pillar in that case tries to bring the history of to impose the history that took place in one world onto another world and recreate the parts of it that are convenient for him. But unfortunately, he can't just recreate the parts that are convenient for him, and it ends up making things a lot worse. And the only way that it's able to undo it is by taking parts of that storyline as it played out once back into the past and then doing it over with the additional information. And this is so basically they're on the sort of the third attempt at trying to get the situation to resolve, but what it takes is the death of a person essentially in order to get the story to reset. But what exactly that is, how exactly that all plays out is very ambiguous, and the only reason any of it even works is because Seraph is not a real place to begin with. If it was situated in actual history as opposed to the Lunar Sea, you wouldn't be able to do any of it. So that's even though the stories are all theoretical constructs, and even in that situation, they still pretty much get bound to the outcomes. Shimosa is the one that lines up the worst with the theme, mainly because Shimosa is a really weird red-headed stepchild of the arc, which doesn't involve demon god pillars in any way that I'm aware of. It doesn't seem to anyway. It might. But
they'll turn up. They can't resist putting their noodly appendages in things.
That are only noodly appendage.
That's all they are, is noodly appendage and eyeballs.
But
eyeballs.
There's still an element of it in that it's sort of hinted at around the edges of the main story that the Musashi Miyamoto, resident to that world, is sort of on his deathbed but can't seem to die. He's just getting older and wasting away. And it's basically because there's something has been left undone, and he's finally able to die after the Musashi, who is the traveler between worlds one that hops between different timelines and dimensions, has a proper showdown at the very end of the Singularity with Sasaki Kojiro, and that allows the world's resident Musashi to die because that critical story beat has finally been completed.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas because the world was being screwed with, it wasn't able to take place. And Salem is basically the culmination of all this, and that essentially the motif is plays. Like your group from Chaldea infiltrates the Singularity as a performing troupe, and you perform plays for the residents of the town at various parts of the story. And the general gist of it is that you are performing a play, but Salem itself is a play, and it is not the first iteration of that play either. And your opponent is essentially the one who is the director. But since the director calls the shots, you can't defy what happens. Things have to go the director's way. So long as he isn't upsetting the story enough that reality will reject it in any way, he can get everything that he wants to happen the way he wants it to happen. And the only way that you can actually break free of this is by doing the things that the people in the story already would do. So that his interventions will have to be more game breaking in order to get things to go his way.
Okay.
So they all have this plot thread of like stories and the sort of inevitability of the way people behave as a result of everybody thinking in stories.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I think when viewed collectively, you can see what they're going for, but individually, the whole arc was not that great. Like it was better. I'd say all of them, except for maybe Agatha, which is kind of weird, are better than most of the first arc, saving Camelot onward. But I think that Camelot and Babylonia, the Camelot Babylonia Solomon trilogy, are still probably the strongest single chunk of story that has been translated into English so far.
But
Like there are real high points for the 1.5 arc. Like I really liked some parts of Shinjuku. I really liked some parts of Salem. I really liked some parts of Seraph. But as far as a single unbroken thread goes, the Camelot Babylonia Solomon story is the strongest so far.
But Agartha has Fergus thrusting his sword deeply into the center of the big giant floating island.
If it was anybody other than Fergus, it would be much more innocuous. But Fergus has exactly one thing in the world that he's genuinely interested in it, and it involves thrusting deeply.
And not swords.
Oh dear.
And there goes the tone.
Yep.
But
that's literally all I can think of when I think of the current arc in FGO. Is
why is that the only thing you remember? My goodness.
It is just Fergus being so over the top at the end and telling, okay, women, look, this is how you take control of the situation, and then starts thrusting his sword literally into the entire world that they made.
That's very Fergus.
Nope.
This is not a good thing.
It is so on the nose and ridiculous. How can you not have that be the first thing that comes to your mind?
Possibly because I've blocked it out, because it involves Fergus.
Damn.
But yeah, there's some entertaining little plays that you perform in Salem as well. The first one is probably the most story and character related one, which is basically a fantasy account of the journey and arrival of the Queen of Sheba to visit King Solomon. And the second one is a very strange rendition of the Three Little Pigs, with the three Jeans playing the Three Little Pigs. And for some reason they go in the houses in reverse order, but they lose anyway. And they end up fighting like the British Army at the end or something. It's a bit Monty Python.
Of course it is.
Except with the French outside the castle this time. Or inside the castle sometimes. I'm not really sure. And then the second, the one that follows that is what was the next one? I think the next one is about Medea's tutelage under Cersei, and how she convinces Cersei to teach her.
Lesson 1. Here's how you turn people into pigs.
Pretty much. There's what else was there? There's a side story one that you do after the arc is completed, which is a segment from Journey to the West, which ends up proceeding in exactly as ridiculous a fashion as you would expect, and it uses the same set of characters from the Journey to the West event. You know, one of the worst events in the game, but still a very silly and entertaining story. But
Yeah.
and there's an incredibly bizarre and alarming sequence between Artoria Lancer Alta and Nightingale, who play the Ox King and Princess Ironfan respectively.
Oh, good grief.
And it's a very, very disturbing segment. It's very strange.
Is Sunsung actually part of the story, or does she just turn up for that play?
Oh, she's not actually in Salem. Somebody else is playing the role. It's just that when they're in character, you see them as the characters
Oh, okay.
in the story. But somebody else, they never make it exactly clear who is playing who. It's probably, in that case, I would guess it's probably Matahari playing her
Mm-hmm.
for obvious reasons, for two very obvious reasons. But yeah, that's the story is just a very silly one involving fighting against the rhinoceros demon king or something,
Yeah.
played by Asterios,
Because of course.
who's basically only doing everything because Uriali tells them to.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a fun little story. So Christmas events will be coming to mobile game world very soon.
Mm-hmm. As well as to MMO world. I believe the Final Fantasy 14 one starts up next week.
Oh really?
You can go get yourself Santa Barding.
Santa Barding.
Santa Barding. You get your Christmas chocobo.
I'll have to make sure that I start using it before Thanksgiving next year.
Use it at the most inappropriate times you can think of. There's
sort of like a minor Christmas event which doesn't really involve doing anything but fulfilling objectives going on in the Boat Waifus game in Azur Lane. But there's not really, other than a story about Warspite and Signet trying to work out how to buy Christmas presents for the rest of the Royal Navy fleet. There's not really much going on there. It's just sort of like, oh, you get another few frames of story each day. And I don't know if there's going to be a more major Christmas event later, because it looks like when this particular event happened on the Japan and China servers, it was a bit more elaborate. So maybe there's still stuff to come. Girls Frontline's still on the back burner, so I probably won't participate in the Christmas event for that game. Mm-hmm. And the FGO one, of course, is going to be the time for the opportunity for Altair to play Santa this time.
Yeah.
Apparently they have to save Kildea from a fever that has overtaken pretty much all the staff.
It's got to be silly.
Yeah, apparently there's like a heat wave and the staff are collapsing from overheating. The servants is coming down with fever, and the only people left to solve the issue, I guess, are the Master and Altair.
If only they decided to build Kildea on top of the Himalayas. Oh, wait.
May. May.
Yeah, so that's, I presume it's going to go like all the other Christmas events, meaning that there's going to be a lottery.
Yep.
For everybody to burn out their grinding on.
Enjoy the grind.
Well, I badly need class gems. Like, I'm really, really short of assassin ones, because it seems that everything I have needs assassin gems, and I eat gems like breakfast cereal, because most of my key servants are alter egos and rulers,
mm-hmm.
who, in lieu of requiring many other rarer upgrade materials, they require an absolute truckload of class gems. So I'm always short of them. I'm going to need to do a bunch of farming. But this is since this is the first time the event is being run in the North America server, it means that the lottery will be bottomless, like the other ones that appear for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get as much loot as you are willing to grind for. And I've got my couple hundred apples all ready to go. Yep, gotta keep grinding. Let's keep grinding. A lot of people burn out because they overgrind, so there's something to be careful of. I think that starts tomorrow or the day after. I'm not really sure.
Mhm.
But yeah, there is PSAs going up on the Reddit about, tactics to control yourself and make sure that you don't spend recklessly or anything like that. Like I saw one that was particularly in depth, and it had a lot of very sincerely given advice on ways of avoiding falling into traps, and like things to look out for psychologically that show that you're about to make a very poor fiscal decision and that sort of thing.
Yes. Have you run out of AP? You've run out of AP. Do not look at the apples.
No, it's mainly to do with the gacha, because the Irish Kagal gacha is so popular, and there's lots of people who have been waiting for her for a long time. And unlike Japan, North America has had the opportunity to see Irish Kagal animated.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people have become even more attached than they might have been already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they spending unwisely is what tends to follow along from that type of thing. And like, there's horror stories. Like, there's a very famous horror story for about a person who basically destroyed their life spending like 15 grand on that Fire Emblem gacha.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's sort of like the horror story that everyone remembers. But there's also a particular person on the FGO Reddit who is famous for having offended some god of fortune at some point in their past, because they spend thousands of Saint Quartz on the regular without getting any 5 stars.
Wow.
Like it's become sort of like a community joke at this point. Well, not so much a joke as like people remind themselves of this person whenever they feel like they're getting salty over the gacha. It's like, well, it could be worse. It could always be worse, because this is a real person whose account legitimately doesn't have anything to speak of on it, despite the colossal amount of quartz that's gone into it.
Yeah, the odds of that actually happening and continuing to happen are remote.
Yeah,
vanishingly remote.
But that's still a real place on the diagram, on the probability curve. That's a real fate that can befall you.
Someone has to keep spinning natural ones.
Yeah, it's a non-zero probability. So
it's a non-zero.
Yeah,
we're coming up on a break, by the way. So
we are.
Right. I don't have much else to talk about in any case. I don't think there's much to say on any of the anime I've been following. Most of them are about where I expected.
Yeah. All right, Ari, how much do you have to actually speak about for your week?
I can go for a bit, or I can make it quick. It can really go either way. It depends on how many stories I want to tell. But,
okay.
Yeah. So I mostly said that because I really gotta go to the restroom. So we should go to a break.
Let's take a break then.
We'll be right back after some music.
tease me now, but just one glimpse will never be enough for a tiny chance. Would I throw it all away? 'Cause only one thing ever matters. I cannot deny my true.
And we're back.
Yes, indeedy.
Yes.
All right. So,
So-
Ari, sir, your week, please.
Oh, I kind of interrupted Vol's week with emergency restroom breaks, so
Well, I don't really have much else to say other than I'm going to be heading up to visit my parents this coming week, and I will still be there when we resume the show, so I'll probably just have a headset mic or something.
Oh, that could be fun.
alrighty.
All right. I've only got
So-
about 15 minutes of footage left, by the way.
So we'll I'll keep it in 15 minutes for mine. I don't think I'll go over that anyway.
Otherwise,
So
I'll subject people to that footage from Fallout 76 the other day. Ah.
So yeah, my week consisted of the right before holiday break, work rush starting to settle down, and I know we're going to have a spike of orders next week. This happens every single year,
Mm-hmm.
where the early birds that are like, oh, we need to get our stuff in before they start getting all the stuff piled on them, all pile their junk on us right at the start of the month, and then starts to slow down a little bit and gets back to normal about like right this week. And then right before Christmas is when all the people that are like, we need this stuff out before the holidays happen, call us and like, we need all these 800 orders. And so I'm going to be punching in numbers like crazy next week.
Panic!
But this week, I did have a bit of time to vidge a game. And so I just went ahead and played through and finished Trails in the Sky first chapter, which was actually not a very long game at all. So I was thinking this would be as long as the Erebonia games. No. Second chapter is longer than the Erebonia games in pretty much all cases if the story's pace is any indication. But first chapter is relatively short, about your first playthrough, 30 hours. Now, I was skimming the first until you get to until you meet Tita, because I'd already played that far. So I was basically just quickly flipping through and giving myself a refresher and only reading the interesting scenes and fast forwarding through most of the other stuff because I'd already seen it all already.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just, for funsies, because I was going so fast anyway, decided to pull up a guide and 100% it. I do not know how anybody can get all the achievements in these games without a guide literally sitting on the other monitor next to them the entire time they're playing. Because some of this stuff is stupidly obscure. Like, cryptic NES-style BS.
Oh
Like,
my.
go talk to this random NPC after certain random triggers happen during each chapter about 12 times a chapter, and by the end of the game, he'll have a quest for you. That kind of stupid shenanigans.
That's pretty stupid.
Yeah, with no indication that this is actually doing anything. So junk like that. The sequel's even worse. About the cryptic BS like that.
Yeah, I thought we got over that in the 80s.
Well, these games are deliberately trying to tap into an older style of RPG in a lot of ways. Like if you play Trails in the Sky, you can see that they are drawing heavily on a legacy. They aren't trying to be anything new.
Yeah, and that's fine and all, but that comes with the caveat: if you want to see everything, back in the day we had to go to the store and buy the player guide for the playthrough where we wanted to see everything. In the modern day and age, you're lucky enough to be able to dig around. Now, for the first Trails in the Sky game, there is no good guide that just covers everything in one guide. That doesn't exist. So you gotta put two guides side by side on your other monitor and keep those open and scroll through both of them.
I'm just getting flashbacks now from my childhood. Ultima, the first one on the Master System. There were no guides in those days. You had to have a notebook. Full notebook on that game, because there would be some random NPC somewhere who would tell you a piece of seemingly unrelated information, but that could be key to opening up the vault that you need to progress the game.
No, I wouldn't worry about it for Trails in the Sky. If you're not Aristeel, then nothing that Aristeel's saying applies to you. That's just not relevant.
But
I'm 100% serious about that. I didn't do any of the silly bull crap that Ari's talking about. I got 17 out of the 27 achievements on Steam, and I got pretty much the full story. Like Ari's world is not a world normal people live in, where you've just got to obsessively talk to every NPC and make sure that you get every single little breadcrumb. That's just not where normal people live.
It has to be finished. That is the only criteria. As long as when I look back at the list, it says it's finished, that's all that matters. And it actually doesn't take that long. You just do need a guide to find all the obscure BS if you want to do that. So I started the second game after that. And I played the first game on hard because I'm fairly experienced and in practice with the series now. And managed to refamiliarize myself with how the court system works in the original games, which is really way simpler than I thought it was. I was thinking it was way more complicated than it actually was in Sky, but no, it's actually simple.
I think that it being simple actually makes it harder, because you've got very little to work with when you are trying to tune things. You can't change things a little bit at all. You have to change things a big bit all at once.
Yeah, it's it is very simple, but it is your resources in it are very limited. So in the Erebonia games, they don't do you need a certain amount of quartz element points to unlock abilities and arts to use. If you want to use tier, you equip a quartz that has tier on it.
No. Everything is about having the right combination and enough numbers.
Yeah. And this flooded back relatively quickly, and I was able to get back on that horse.
Until you got bent over and sodomized.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So the first game on hard wasn't too bad. There was one boss fight that was really, really tough on hard mode, but it's supposed to be tough. It's supposed to be the hardest fight in the game, so I didn't feel too bad about it. There's a fight at the end of Chapter 3, right before the finale starts, or it might be at the earliest part of the final chapter, where the mask man that's been working for the intelligence agency this whole time pulls his mask off and fights Chloe, Shara, and Estelle. And you only get those three for this fight, and you're actually able to lose it and continue with the story. They don't expect you to beat this guy, but to get full PB, you got to beat this guy.
I really hadn't done very much with Shara at all. Like, I had raised both Estelle and Chloe quite effectively, but I'd sort of shoved Shara off to the side.
But yeah, the solution to this fight is Chloe and Sieg. Well, not Chloe. Sieg is going to be your best party member. And you're going to hear Sieg take him down over and over again every single turn. Chloe gets a turn. And she's not going to do her normal job of healing.
To be fair, Sieg is a boss.
He is a boss. When he hits anything, even a boss, he gets 50% reduction to magic and strength. And 50% reduction to magic defense and physical defense. So if he can stick it, it gimps the boss. And if this boss isn't gimped, he's going to one-shot you on hard mode. It doesn't matter how much you grinded. You're going to have hit diminishing return cap by the point it would matter that you might be able to survive some of the stuff he does. So you've got to keep this guy gimped the whole fight and get incredibly lucky. The amount of fights where I had to restart just because at the end of the fight he decided to spam tear all on himself and heal himself for 5,500 HP. I'm just like, well, we're reloading that save. Because he'll do that. And he has access to arts that aren't available until the second game for player characters. Like the Super Earth Guard that makes you completely immune to damage twice instead of once. So you have to waste 2 of your 3 party members' attacks just to get rid of the immunity. And it never, ever wears away naturally. The guy's nuts. But he was a legitimately fun fight to beat, and I enjoyed that fight a lot. It was at no point unfair. It was very clear the game was setting you up to go into this. And there were obvious solutions to the problem, and you could figure them out. And managed to 100% that game fairly quickly. Took about 8 to 10 hours fast forwarding through most of the story.
That's pretty quick for an RPG.
Yeah, didn't take long at all.
I don't know
But
how long I took because I kept leaving the game running when I went away places. So I've got like 90 hours on my playthrough.
Yeah, I
Oh,
need to
yeah,
stop doing that.
It took me several days to do those 10 hours, but I kept getting up and walking away. But even with getting up and leaving it on, my final playtime was only 43.7 hours. So in counting times where I got up, went to work, and then came back when left the game running, that's pretty good. So yeah, you can go through the first Trails game pretty quickly and 100% if you guide your way through it.
Oh, and you will have met Exceed's fandom's choice for best princess.
Oh yeah, yeah. Joshua is best princess.
This makes
But,
no sense with context or without context.
It makes just as little sense in context. Don't worry.
That's reassuring.
So as I mentioned, I played it on hard, and so I go into second chapter right away afterwards and get it set up. Takes an hour and a half to do that. If you want to play second chapter, you can ask me for my settings in that too, because it's another pain in the butt config thing you got to do.
Yay.
Didn't take as long this time. There was less Googling and more just tweaking the thing and getting it to work. And so because I did the last game on hard and I did Cold Steel 3 on hard, I'm like, hard's been about right. Hard has felt appropriate difficulty for what I'm looking for. So I boot up Trails in the Sky second chapter on hard mode. Do not play Trails in the Sky second chapter on hard mode.
Yes, it will pull your pants down and spank you happily.
It will just beat your teeth in, worse than a bunch of kids on a bus.
Maybe people complained the previous one's hard mode wasn't hard enough.
I don't know what happened, but they drop you into the prologue, and everything is rough the whole way through. You can make your way through it and figure out some strats to get it to work until you get to the last boss of the prologue. And they throw a boss at you with only 2 characters who can buff his speed and keeps it buffed with an EX level speed buff the entire fight. So the guy gets 4 turns to every one both of your characters get. And he hits like a truck.
You basically look like ground beef by the end of by the time you get a turn.
Yeah, by the time... Yeah, and every basic attack he does half your health, and he has special moves too. I could not find a way to beat this boss in an hour and a half or even make appreciable progress. I think I got him down to 30% and he started healing himself.
Were there any guides that had that there's like a gimmick to it or something?
The guide that I read said good effing luck.
Oh, that's reassuring.
So that was the strat for getting through him, and it apparently only gets worse from there. It eases up after the prologue for a bit, and then about chapter 5, it just nosedives back into brutally difficult and gets even worse in the last chapter than the prologue was. So I'm like, no, we ain't doing that.
So what are you supposed to do? Are you just supposed to load game over and over again until the AI just decides it doesn't feel like buffing itself?
Or screwing you by chain healing itself at the end of the fight or something? I have no idea. It's just an insanely difficult fight, and I had already hit diminishing returns on grinding. I spent like 3 or 4 hours prepping just for the prologue boss. And
Wow.
it did not work. There
Well,
was no...
Did you not
no
ask
saving
yourself if you were sane at any point?
Well, it clicked about after 2.5 hours of attempts on the boss. Or
Wow.
some absurd number of plural hours beating my head against this guy and not making any progress at all. I'm like, okay, no, this is not the difficulty experience I was looking for. This is hate yourself difficulty on hard mode. I don't even want to think about what Nightmare's like. So I bumped it back down to normal, and it felt like hard mode for the previous games. It has felt that way the whole way through.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really tough. Don't even bother if you're just going for the casual longtime JRPG gamer experience. Don't touch that hard mode button in SC. Don't do it. It's bad for you. The other thing you're going to hate yourself for is this is only for the completionists again. The cryptic BS in this one is even worse. And it's for the dumbest garbage in these Chivos that you'll ever think of. There's one that's called Breakfast Safari. Find bacon, eggs, and golden toast. These are the names of pigeons that fly away when you walk too close to them and disappear forever after they've flown away once.
Okay,
And
how are you supposed to know
there's-
any of that without the guide?
they are scattered throughout throughout certain parts of chapters 3 and 4. I think 2 are in chapter 3 and 1's in chapter 4. And the fun part is, two of them are in the middle of a bunch of other pigeons, and you have to guess which one is the right one. So basically, you have to make a save before you go run at this flock of pigeons. Go run at this flock of pigeons and talk to one of them and hope it's the right one, while all the other ones fly away. And if it wasn't the right one, reload the save.
Good grief.
So that's one of them.
Well, aren't these like ancient PSP games? I guess they're just
Yeah.
assuming that all the guides are out.
So yeah, that's a thing. And the other one was something I spent the rest of my remaining free time on, and that's the Get All the Books Chivo. Every Trails game has a super duper hidden book series you can find that tells a fully complete short story, and you have to find it one chapter at a time, and it's stupid hard, and yeah, etc., etc. Unless you're going to be replaying these games and diligently searching the whole place, you need a guide to find them. Well, getting the books isn't enough for second chapter. No. Because it's the Gambler Jack series, you have to go to the casino.
Oh no!
And you have to,
Oh,
and I
no,
quote,
Oh.
win big at the casino twice.
Back to Mahjong land.
Not Mahjong.
I'm not saying that it is Mahjong. I'm saying that you need to approach it with the same mentality.
I did. I turned on I turned on an audiobook. Turned on a Nightside book and just went to town on it. But the first one isn't that bad. Get a natural blackjack with both cards face down. Okay, whatever. Bet 10 Mira worth of chips every time until you get it. It takes like not even 10 minutes.
Yep.
The other one is much worse. You need to get 4 of a kind in 5-card draw poker with no opponents.
Okay, what?
Statistically, what is the odds on that? I wonder.
About 1 in 5,000.
Oh boy.
In draw with no opponents, I think it's 1 in 4,000-ish, 1 in 5,000-ish.
I was thinking I was going to say
Odds.
just, get a royal flush.
Odds
Oh.
of 4 of a kind. There are 624 ways to get 4 of a kind. That's 0.024%.
Wow.
So here's the real kicker. Turbo mode doesn't work with poker. So you can't turbo mode your way through this. You have to legitimately sit here and let the AI deal out them poker hands in what feels like snail's pace speed because you've been going in turbo mode the whole time. I got that stupid 4 of a kind. It took 2.5 hours. And the only reason I know it took exactly that long was because that's how much time elapsed from the chapter I started and the chapter I ended in the audiobook.
Right. We're probably running up against time at this point.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Actually,
So,
I
yeah.
just wanted to ask one thing though. Do you happen to know if there's a new game plus mode? Because I don't
Yes.
remember much about chapter 1, so I might need to replay it, but I don't want to replay it from scratch.
yes, there is New Game Plus.
Okay, I might take a crack at that when I've got some time over Christmas.
So yeah, I'm not very far in SC and Trails in the Sky SC.
And I can humiliate the space pirates all over again. I mean, the
Yes.
sky
Yeah.
pirates.
Go beat up the Capoas. But yeah. So yeah, I'm chewing through that. I'm not going to be blitzing through SC. I'm barely into chapter 2 in a game that has 9 chapters. So I did manage to weasel my way out of the prologue in chapter 1. But
Panting
not-
and bleeding.
yeah. But the things that worried me the most looking at the Chivo list are gone, except for the aforementioned Breakfast Safari and another one that is very similar to it, as well as open every chest in the game and then talk to it, which is buggy. So these games will be a lot less stressful for people that aren't completionists.
Yeah.
But for those of us that are,
I made that decision very early in my gaming career that I would not become that person because I am OCD about a lot of things already. Like I can't even put up washing if the colors of the pegs don't match on a single piece of clothing. It drives me up the wall. So
Yeah.
I have enough problems. I didn't need gaming completionism to be one of them. So I just decided outright I'm not going to be that person.
yeah, when you unfortunately have afflicted yourself with this, Achieva like baby come back, leave no chest unmolested is the description.
Oh
Is-
my!
is to get all 517 chests in one playthrough and talk to them. And what's fun is the tracker doesn't update right. So every time you finish an area, you need to save, check to be sure that's the exact number you needed, and then check the counter after you reload the game, because it's the only way to get the counter to update.
Good grief.
Womp womp.
And this is why, as well, I shall also never enter the world of the completionist.
Don't do it. It's bad for you.
You must
I don't know
hate
how
yourself.
I did it. I don't know how I wound up here, but it's bad news bears for you. So, that's pretty much what I've been doing. Just fun times in the Trail series still, just back in the 2.5D ones instead of the 3D ones, and still having a good time.
Alrighty. Still got a few minutes of footage left. Anything else before we move on?
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
I did have something, but I've completely forgotten about what it was now.
Alright. Let me find the correct slides. There we are.
Oh, I did get my Blu-rays that I ordered from Hanabi, who are in the process of currently imploding. And to my delight, each of their Blu-rays comes packaged not just with the series, but with like a 3-disc soundtrack from
That's
the
a really
series.
good deal.
Yeah. I kind of feel bad that they basically have imploded now.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll see a resurrection. I hope we do. But
Once they
I think that the era might be over.
Yeah, once they get clear of all this Rooster Teeth fallout, they might come back. I hope they do.
Apparently, when they did their fire sale to get rid of all their Rooster Teeth merch, it basically imploded their business even further because they got so many orders to handle that they actually had to stop filling them because they were running up against labor laws.
Ooh.
So they had to send out an email saying, look, I mean, you people who really, really need things to arrive before Christmas, send an email in about it. We'll just assume that the rest of you will be okay receiving after Christmas because our employees will die.
Yeah. Yeah, that's never a good sign. On the plus side, though, I suppose people do like Rooster Teeth merch.
Yeah. I don't know how much longer Rooster Teeth's going to be around, though. They're neck deep in a big scandal, and honestly, what content do they have that people actually like?
They've got...
People don't watch RVB anymore. People don't watch Ruby nearly as much as they used to. It's on its way out.
Because it sucks.
They've
Yeah,
got Death Battle,
bad.
but Death Battle would live on its own anyway.
Death Battle was acquired from the Screw Attack guys, and the Screw Attack guys will be perfectly fine if Rooster Teeth implodes. They'll just go pick their thing up, and
Yeah,
then
People
Take that
don't
ball
watch.
and go home.
People don't watch that as part of being a Rooster Teeth fan.
No.
the audience for Death Battle has not changed since Screw Attack got acquired by Rooster Teeth.
Except for that masturbatory red versus blue fight they put together.
Oh, there's that one, and there's all the Ruby fights that show up, and they've actually had the good sense to make sure the Ruby characters lose at least half the time.
Yeah, Tifa versus Yang, I think. Who won that one? Yang won that one.
Yeah, but they had Mitsuru kill Weiss.
Yes. Mitsuru would totally wipe the floor with Weiss. Just saying.
Well,
she is.
Weiss can't beat anybody, even in Ruby.
No, she can't.
I've always had a soft spot for Weiss when I was watching that show because I feel like she was just written to be a loser.
I would if she wasn't so
and for
stuck
no good
up.
reason. I don't mind that. I think that she fits the princess archetype pretty well. Like that's sort of her job in the story. If she wasn't snooty, she wouldn't really have any character at all.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway. So, yeah, if Rooster Teeth folded, I don't think too many people would miss it too much.
At
Yeah.
this point, no.
I don't-
All the series they
Do
like
people
are
watch
dead.
all their weird? Don't they do like a bunch of weird podcast talk show crap or something?
Yeah, apparently.
The RT podcast used to be really popular. I used to listen to it back when it was good. But it's like the Giant Bombcast, right? The Giant Bombcast used to be really good and a really top tier podcast. And it's just stagnated or died over time. And you can see how it's just fallen in both viewership and quality. it literally had the exact same thing happen to it that happened to the Giant Bombcast.
We, on the other hand, have never been any good, and we've managed to keep up that standard.
I don't know. We were already rock bottom when we got the shovel out as soon as Boobies got mentioned the first time.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah. I mean, at least we're consistent.
And we've ticked off their mentioning of that for the show.
mention
because I sort of
boobies, tick.
skirted around it when I was talking about who was playing as Sanzang.
Yeah, you did. All right, so let us dive into the annual terribleness of the Game Awards.
Oh,
Right. Jeff Keighley's annual vanity project, where the Doritos Pope addresses his people, or who he thinks of as his people, but realistically, it's just a love letter to Kojima because he can't get enough of that man.
So I actually sat down and watched the stream this year, and it wasn't as dreadful as usual. It was
They probably-
actually quite professional.
this means people did their job.
Is that a good thing, though? Because mainly the only thing that was memorable about it was how unprofessional it was.
Yeah, like other than reining in Keeley and keeping him on track, they did a few things which I'll just quickly go over. They brought in what was her name, Himiko Nakamura. I cannot understand a word that woman says, but she's adorable while she does it. So
Everybody
it doesn't
loves
matter.
her. Nobody knows what she's talking about. Everybody loves her.
Her accent's just so thick.
She's trying. I think her English is probably actually quite good. It's just her accent is so heavy that you can't tell.
Yeah, but she's got such great energy, so you can't be mad at her.
She just looks so happy all the time.
Yeah, she's
This is how they
just
get
an
you
awesome,
Lighterers,
fun
by the
person
way.
to be around.
Yeah, that's
She,
as part of their stage culture in Japan. It's like this is how you present yourself.
Yes, just be fun, be relatable.
If you watch any of the FGO Fest stage content, it's exactly the same type of thing.
Up until Gudiko turns up, anyway.
like,
Well, I'm not talking about that.
having been drugged feet first into the Idaru culture, that's how they all act
Yeah,
on stage.
It's
We-
a pretty standard template.
we had other things like usually the most pretentious award is their Games for Change or whatever they want to call
Games
it.
for
each year.
change.
Didn't that
normally-
go to?
It went to Greece, I don't know.
Glee.
Glee.
Blah.
Glee. Honestly, the way that game portrays it, I want to get depressed because if I get depressed, I get to go on a big adventure. Apparently,
Well, I'm so sick of that though. Like every single game that comes out these days from these indies is always about depression. It's like, oh, this game's actually about depression.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I get enough of that in my real life. I don't need to play a game about it.
Having danced around the edge of actual depression myself, there's no bright colors and there's no happy, cool adventure.
It's just we don't care about the actual disease of depression anymore, folks. Like nobody cares.
Yeah,
Like,
because
you can make it-
everybody has had that sensation of spiraling down the plug hole at some point in their life.
Anyway, so instead of having somebody get up there and just crawl up their own rectum for 10 minutes, they got Bunsen and Beaker up there, so they turned it into a Muppet Show sketch.
I wonder if the
Where,
Muppets are woke these days.
Yeah, they are a little bit. Largely, it's
Oh,
the Sesame Street writers completely neglecting 40 odd years of history to push their own agenda.
Yeah, all I know is that Animal is the person I hated at work before he quit. His favorite thing ever, and he had animals like plushies all over his desk.
Animal is
And-
awesome. Don't you knock Animal?
I'll knock Animal all day long because
I
he's
didn't like
forever
any of
associated with
that.
that thing.
I didn't like any of that cadre. I thought none of them were cool.
Animal was the only cool one.
And I didn't care about Animal either.
Anyway, so yeah, instead of the usual pretentious wokeness, it was Beaker getting attacked by a goose. I mean, I could watch that all day. I could watch anything Beaker all day. Honestly, Beaker's great.
Is that the one that just talks in me?
That's him.
Right.
What else? We also had Reggie acting as an usher, which was quite nice at the right time. Good on you,
Reggie
Reggie.
on stage. Reggie on stage to show he's not in the industry, but he's still part of the community. Really adds some genuine sincerity to what he always said while he was employed by Nintendo.
Well, I mean, everybody did like him because of that. I don't know if he started out that way, but he definitely became that way when he realized that, or basically when he precipitated the "My body is ready" meme, and
Yeah.
then realized that this is what it means to be beloved by the community. I think that he then bought it entirely. But
And he became
he's
a
like a
fantastic
professor now,
ambassador.
isn't he?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, he like teaches games development or something. I don't know.
He's basically become the face of gaming in a lot of ways. He's become an excellent ambassador for the industry.
Well, he's become sort of like pretty much the only Western example of a corporate suit who actually managed to be liked by gamers.
Instead of, some sort of soulless drone.
Like, and that I think it's important that he does wear a suit most of the time, because you can tell, like the hello fellow kids just drips off the ones that wear a t-shirt on stage or wear a polo on stage or whatever. Like, they all look very artificial.
Hello, kids, you want to do the skateboards?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Reggie, like, everybody knows that Reggie's a stiff, but people love him anyway.
Yeah. So,
He's not pretending to be something that he's not. Like, he's not pretending to be hip like the kids. He knows he's not cool, but he also knows that that's part of his charm.
everyone remembers Puppet Reggie, too.
And yeah, everybody remembers the puppet sketch, but
The Puppet sketch was great.
that was one of the best pieces of marketing Nintendo's had in a while.
He's not
For
afraid
a terrible
to...
game.
Yeah. Reggie is not afraid to take the piss out of himself as well, which is something I think every one of these stiffs really needs.
Well, they need to realize that that's the case, like that they don't actually lose anything from doing that.
Yeah.
Instead, they have a lot to gain and very little to lose, because people already don't think very highly of the average corporate suit in charge of the games industry. Like, you might as well allow your public image to take a few knocks so you can get some actual appeal going.
Yeah.
Even
Especially if
then,
you have to appear on stage.
even then, all it's going to hurt is your ability to present a certain persona that you don't want to present anyway, because it's not going to get you as many sales as being the cool guy in the suit that shows up and is like, I got some video games.
Yeah. So, yeah, you had all that. You had, Reggie kind of headed off a potential rant, thankfully.
Potential Sonic Fox.
Potential Sonic Fox. Sonic Fox is not there, and there's nowhere near it. They actually just really bustled through a lot of the esports stuff.
I think that they probably realized after a few years that nobody actually cares about that except them.
Yeah, like there are people who care about the esports, but they're kind of a separate crowd.
No, I don't think that that's the case. And the reason I say that is that there is no one in this world who cares about sports, qua sports.
Two.
People care about their sport.
Yep.
They don't care about sports. Like, there is no the sports awards. There's like, there might be, a player of the year award in a particular league for a particular sport or something, but there is no the sports awards. People don't care about that crap. They want to know about their community and their people.
Yeah.
There's too many titles in esports right now, with each one being its own sport in this analogy. And the league players don't care what the Fortnite pro players think.
No, they really
Like,
They don't even know their names. Like, most of the people who are fans of League probably can't name any popular Fortnite players. They certainly can't name any popular COD players. Like, there's no overlap there.
Yeah, this burgeoning idea of esports as a generic just googob is kind of hit its point where it's not interesting and people are starting to figure that out.
Well, I think that they've got on their hands as far as the award show goes as a paradox, because if esports are not important enough to appear on the awards shows, then you can cover them on an awards show efficiently. If esports are important enough to appear on an awards show, they are too big to be dealt with on that awards show.
Yeah, when you reach that point, you kind of need esports off on its own to do its own thing.
Yeah, like if esports accomplishes what they think it's accomplishing, then they are not the people to handle it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. All right, let us look at some awards then. We'll just go down the list as they appear here. So starting at the top is, of course, Game of the Year.
This is the one that actually surprised me the most.
Yeah, so we'll start right at the top here. So the picks were Control, Death Stranding, Resident Evil, Sekiro, Smash Bros. Ultimate, and Outer Worlds. Our pick, well, what we picked, actually, that they would say, blah, is Death Stranding, because everything was Kojima this year.
Because Keeley.
Because Keeley. What we actually picked as our Game of the Year was, of course, Devil May Cry 5. Which isn't even on the list. Well, I agree, though. It just does everything right.
But if I had to pick now, not knowing what it was, based on just the list, because I think that Devil May Cry 5 is the one that deserves to be there. But based on that list, I would have picked Sekiro, because when it comes to being a game, it is the only one that does that sufficiently and executed at a high level and of consistency throughout the product.
Yes, and ultimately the panel of judges agreed, because that's where the award went, was to Sekiro.
Yeah, I guess they had to figure that they got to give out a real award once in a while. However, the fun part about this was the amount of salt that ensued.
So much salt.
All of the games media edifice people came out to talk about how it was wrong. The wrong game got the award because that game was too hard.
Of course they did.
Of course they don't think it's any good. None of them could play it.
They're bad.
Yeah.
They're bad at their games. Bad at their jobs.
Come back when you can at least hear the beat to the song in Devil May Cry 5, and we'll talk about how about your qualifications to be a game journalist.
All right, moving on. Next game was Best Game Direction. The nominees were Control, Death Stranding, Resi 2, Sekiro, and Outer Wilds. Our pick was Sekiro, and our prediction was Death Stranding. We picked it. We were right.
Yeah.
Death Stranding got it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's because Death Stranding's practically constructed after the fashion of a movie. If you can't direct, then, I mean, what are you doing?
That's pretty much what Kojima wants to do anyway, is make movies.
Yeah.
Well, that's what he's doing now, so...
What game was Outer Wilds? Is that Vaporwave one?
No, that was... Oh, geez, what was that one now?
Or was that Greedy? I don't remember. There's so many weird games.
There are
What's
so many
Outer
weird-
Wilds?
Outer Wilds, I keep mixing up with the Outer Worlds, which is a rollicking space adventure.
But what's Outer Wilds? My question is not what Outer Worlds is. I know what Outer Worlds is.
Oh, it was that one with the terrible art style that you're like on an alien planet and you got 22 minutes before the local sun goes supernova.
Okay.
What? That doesn't sound familiar at all.
It doesn't to me either. I'm reading the Wikipedia summary.
Oh, there you go then. Next up is Cringe-tastic. Best ongoing game. Nominees: Apex Legends.
We was robbed!
Where was robbed? Destiny 2, Shadowbringers, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, and Rainbow Six Siege. So yeah, we picked Final Fantasy as our pick because duh.
We was robbed!
We was robbed. Unfortunately, we predicted they would go to Apex Legends. They didn't. They went lowest common denominator and went Fortnite.
I thought that they were going to opt for second lowest common denominator in order to at least pretend like they had some class, but
Nope.
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 Nope. Especially after that, they did this big thing where they were announcing the holiday event for Apex Legends. So you had Mirage, the character, kind of dial in and have this big conversation with Keeley, when it was quite embarrassing actually. So you'd think maybe there was enough money flowing there to get them the award, but no.
Did they bring that twat ninja up on stage?
Yes. He got Esports of the Year. Especially when he gets up there and says, "Oh, I've made my career playing multiplayer games." No, Ninja. You've made it playing game. Singular.
No, he hasn't made his career playing games at all. He's made his career being a twat on camera.
That's also true. That is very, very true. Where were we? Next up, going down the list, Best Narrative. We had The Plague Tale, Control, Death Stranding, Disco Elysium, and Outer Worlds. So our pick, we picked Disco Elysium, and we thought they would go for Plague Tale, which seems, actually now seeing more footage of it, seems to be... Girl has mind control powers over rats and everything is terrible.
I see.
Yeah, that's pretty much what the game was about anyway. When I first saw it, was rats and person trying not to die from rats.
I heard it's an establishing piece for a universe more than an actual story in and of itself. Like it's setting up this world. But,
Okay.
I haven't sat down and actually, gone through it, but the one source I have that has told me about the game that I actually trust has told me it feels very much so like the game you make to set up everything in your universe before you do something with it.
Okay.
So it's not a complete story.
So it's something just to you kind of put aside for now and come back to it later. Really. So
Yeah, their opinion was it was hard to judge because they didn't think it was a complete story.
So it's
Yeah.
the Space Hulk board game before 40k comes out.
yeah. So the award ultimately ended up going to Disco Elysium. So we kind of agreed with them on that, although
Yeah, well, my agreement, like I was very positive about Disco Elysium when we were discussing this, and all of my information came from people's because it hadn't been out that long, and I had seen it get quite a bit of attention on social media not long after it had come out. And most of the people were, they were posting screenshots from the early parts of the game, and they were talking about how great the writing was and and showing pictures of different situations and options that you had, and it looked pretty good. Turns out there's a lot of dirty linen behind this game, and I think that it starts to come into focus why it got so much favour from the judges who don't normally base their awards on a game's quality. Now,
mhm.
it
It is
turns out
worth-
the people developing this game are a bunch of incredibly sociopathic, ultra progressive communist types who went out of their way to hire Antifa types and people who favour cop killing for their development team.
it is worth noting that this was the crew that got ushered off stage by Reggie.
Yeah, because they went on a spurge out about the
well, they
greatness
tried
of
to.
Marxism. Well, yeah, that's what they were wanting to do. They would have gotten up there and read the entire Communist Manifesto if they thought they could get away with it. But yeah, they got pointedly forced off stage by Reggie because they were trying to go on a pro-communism spiel on stage, having received their award. Like they were trying to be Sonic Fox.
Yeah, and I think this is where Keighley and the Game Awards organisers really learned their lesson. Is
I'm
Sonic
pretty
Fox.
sure someone got on Reggie's earpiece
Yeah,
and
get
told
rid of
him
them.
get these guys off stage before they create a scene.
Yeah,
Because apparently they're a bunch of freaking lunatics, and the writing in their game rapidly segues into political monomania
Blah.
after the initial promising parts.
Yeah. Actually, you'd see that when the award for FNAF was being awarded. The Muppets
Aw.
couldn't actually usher anyone off stage, but Keighley was there. He was hanging in the wings. But thankfully that was, yes, hello, thanks for the award. We want to thank your mum. And off we went. So that ended up being a non-event, thankfully. So, yeah.
I think that they probably learned from the Sonic Fox event. Like, it was Sonic Fox, I think, was very, very polarizing as far as the Game Awards went, and they knew that they couldn't afford to become a platform for that type of behavior. Because Keighley really does have big ambitions for this show. He still seems to believe that this is going to become the video game Oscars.
Which ultimately means he needs to become a parody of himself. I mean, he's already
Pretty
done
much.
that.
Well, yeah, I mean, once you're the Doritos Pope, you can never really go back.
there is no coming back. All right, next. Best Art Direction. Nominees were Control, Death Stranding, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Sekiro, and Zelda Link's Awakening.
What was the category again?
Best Art Direction.
Best Art Direction.
Yeah, which is, I believe, was presented by Himiko.
What did we think deserved it from that list?
We did the same thing again. We went outside the box, and it went to Devil May Cry 5 for us.
Yeah, I think that's probably a just assignation.
Yep. So, despite not being able to understand a word of what Miss Nakamura was saying, we predicted that they would give the award to Death Stranding because that's kind of the way the wind was blowing. It actually went to Control.
Maybe we should have just left Death Stranding off the list when picking who they would pick, because, I mean, it goes without saying that there's going to be a bias in favour of it unless they're trying not to.
Yeah.
But I think that probably Keely's Kojima philia probably counted against Death Stranding this time because he had to appear like he wasn't favouring him.
I bet there was a meeting in the back room before the judges made their decision, like, okay, I know I've told y'all to give Kojima a bit of something back here, but we need to make sure he doesn't get too many. Otherwise, they're going to start running the how off about how much I love Kojima nonstop on the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Kojima had front row seats. He
always-
was right there.
He always takes great pains to point out that he's not on the panel that decides on the awards, but nobody really falls.
Nobody
by that.
believes that.
Nobody thinks that he has no pull here.
All right. Moving on. We didn't actually talk about best score, but that went to Death Stranding.
Oh, we did. It was supposed to be bang, 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 pull my double trigger.
Well, did I actually do a slide up for that? Hang on. I don't think I did.
But like I've heard, and this is just again like with so many other things. These are things I've heard because I haven't played Death Stranding myself. I've heard that the song Death Strand, which is the performed one, is actually really a clash in tone with the rest of the soundtrack, and it's
Okay.
really poor fit for the game.
I could believe that. Like, they actually performed that song live as part of the awards. So you had the singer up there in full costume, and suddenly they pulled an orchestra out from the back room somehow. They're very fond of just
Yeah.
popping an orchestra out. It happened quite a lot. So it's a
That's
very,
okay.
very nice song.
Yeah, but apparently it's just a total mismatch for the rest of the soundtrack.
Yeah. So it kind of keeps that going from the Metal Gear series, I suppose.
I can almost forgive it for the Metal Gear series because I feel like the Metal Gear series is when they do a really weird song with a lot of wailing lyrics in it. I feel like they're trying to sort of pay homage to James Bond in a way.
Well,
It
that's
always have-
pretty much where Snake Eater came from. That whole song.
They always have a very overblown opening song.
And then they just follow it up with 200 hours of nonsense.
Yeah.
So, best music, was won by Death Stranding. We picked Devil May Cry 5, though I don't have a slide for it.
No, we didn't pick it. We didn't pick anything. I just said Devil May Cry's bang, 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 pull my double trigger should have won.
All right.
Because
It
it's the
should've
only
won.
song that I listened to for like 3.5 months.
But didn't they perform that on stage last time or something?
Bang,
Yeah,
bang,
the
bang, Devil
most-
Trigger.
The worst rendition of Devil Trigger I've ever heard performed
Yeah, but
live
what
last time.
what I'm
Mm.
saying is that they already did that once, so they can't do it again.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what an off note it would have been if they had like performed before decided they were going to perform Death Stranding and then Death Stranding didn't win?
Yeah.
Like that would have been embarrassing to say the least.
All right. Next up is audio design. Our nominees were Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the remake, of course, Control, Death Stranding, again, Gears 5, Resi 2, the remake, and Sekiro. For both our pick and our prediction, we put them both on Resident Evil 2.
It was the only logical choice here.
It was. But apparently,
The exact same gun sounds we've heard for years now won.
yeah, they gave it to Modern Warfare 2, because apparently making a gun go bang is something how new and revolutionary.
Well,
Never mind.
the thing is, you've got to keep in mind a lot of the people who are on these panels, they don't play video games. So the first time you get put into a Modern Warfare game sort of war zone environment, it is actually pretty striking.
Yeah, true.
The first time.
The first time. But
So if
after
you
you've
don't-
seen it for 20 odd years,
But if you're a games journalist or someone like that in the industry, you don't play video games. You haven't been playing Call of Duty in every iteration for the past 20 years.
yeah.
So
Never
it's
mind that
pretty
you wrote reviews for all of them.
it's pretty fresh in
So-
that situation.
Never mind that Resident Evil 2 has sound that both conveys the tone very well and still keeps you informed on what's going on.
It's necessary to play the game.
It is essential to play the game. Same for Control as well. You need the sound to maintain that level of surrealism that game's going for. Death Stranding, you need to hear the pea hitting the ground.
In Sekiro, you need to hear the obnoxiously loud pot sound when you throw it way too close to
Yep.
an enemy that somehow can't see you when you're literally right around the corner.
Gears 5, you don't actually need it.
More shooty bang bang.
Shooty shooty bang bang, quip 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 snark.
But you've got to growl.
You gotta growl.
Yeah.
You need a lozenge. You gotta commune with your chest high wall.
But yeah, we need to keep going here. So
All right, where were we? Best performance. We didn't actually talk about on Rantathon properly either.
I gave a shout out that if Ashley Birch won, I was going to eat my hat, and she didn't win, so I don't have to eat my hat.
She didn't. I'll be fair to. I'll throw her a bone and to say her performance as Parvati in Outer Worlds was her best performance I've ever seen.
I don't care.
That's not really.
This is
That's
not
really
high
saying-
praise.
Like, considering that she's had an in the industry for as long as she has, and she's finally managed to turn out a halfway decent performance after
Yeah.
getting, multiple different roles and multiple different projects. Like, I'm still not impressed.
I will
I'm
still
here to-
never compare her to Aloy.
I'm here to tell you, I've never heard of the girl that plays Milliam in Cold Steel 3, but I'm so glad she replaced Ashley Birch. That character went from the obnoxious pain in the butt, who I don't want to hear talk ever, to a fairly endearing character for the whole of that game,
Yep.
just from the voice actress switch.
So apparently, yeah, Ashley Birch can do a stumbling, awkward dork.
Just because she's a stumbling, awkward dork.
There you go, typecasting.
She's still acting as herself, in other words.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not
Like,
exactly
the only
acting.
The only character that she plays is Ash from Hey Ash, What You Playing? That's her entire repertoire, is being herself.
All right, we'll keep moving on. Games for Impact, Grizz won it. Nobody cares. All I care is I kind of want to play Untitled Beaker game now.
What is Glue actually allegedly about? Is this one of
Depression.
those depression games? Oh,
Yeah.
right. That's the depression one.
So it's the whole delve into the depths of your psyche and stuff.
And feel bad about it.
Just make depressing games, indie devs.
No.
What?
Don't make it an allegory for depression.
I don't want them to make depressing games either. Can't they make a game that's about being really cool and happy and excited about stuff?
Sunset Overdrive.
No, that's about thinking that it's still the 80s because
that-
you're an old person.
That's just being embarrassing and old.
Like that, Sunset Overdrive is High Fellow Kids the game.
Yeah. So, all right. So yeah, just Games for Impact. I don't care beyond talking about Muppets, because Muppets are awesome.
And this game will make no impact because nobody knows anything about it or cares.
Exactly.
Like
best-
Sodding Undertale had more impact.
It did. That's because it was actually quite a good game underneath it all. Independent game, the one we didn't actually talk about because we talked about the other independent game. The other one. Which makes actually this award both completely redundant and completely pointless. So, I'm going to combine these. The nominees were Disco Elysium, Baba Is You, Katana Zero, Outer Wilds, and Untitled Goose Game for Best Independent Game. For Fresh Independent Game, it was Disco Elysium, Grizz, My Friend Pedro, Outer Wilds, Slay the Spire, and Untitled Goose Game. So really, all you need to do is just slap My Friend Pedro on there, and that's it.
And this floored me when I realized that it was the exact same game that won both.
Yeah, it was the same game that won both, and that was Disco Elysium. Which
Yeah,
Why even have two categories like this?
I thought that they were going to be like strategic in handing out awards, but maybe this is like the erode the watcher's cynicism year or something.
maybe, but they just gave the same game the same award twice.
The same game made by psychopathic communists,
Yep,
just
And I
like
believe-
most of the people on the panel.
I believe it was the Fresh Award that was the actual Reggie shoeing incident.
When you say shoeing, like to give someone a shoeing in Brit speak is to absolutely pummel the crap out of them. So I wish that's what had happened instead.
See Reggie going to absolute ham on these people. That'd be kind of awesome, actually. I'd pay to watch that.
His body is ready.
Or I would just pay to have Reggie just throw his shoe at them. Best mobile game, I think we skipped as well during Rantathon. That was Call of Duty Mobile, because everyone loves Grey Pace.
Ugh. Do people play Call of Duty on their phone? Is that a thing?
I guess.
Like the only games I play on my phone are games that don't appear in other media. Like
Mhm.
I can't play FGO on my computer. I can't play.
You do anyway.
Well, I project it to my computer screen. That's different.
That's
I can't-
cheating.
I can't play Azure Lane on my computer. Like the phone games are of a particular kind, and that particular kind is grindy. and-
Yes.
You know, suitable for playing in 2-minute increments.
Suitable for nickel and diming.
I don't really see how Call of Duty fits that mold. I feel like there's a lot of these people, these companies are just trying to have a mobile entry because.
Just because, yeah. I mean, at least it's not everyone remaking Hearthstone over again and calling that their mobile entry.
But I mean, I
just-
guess most of the people on the panel probably just play Bejeweled or whatever, and they play each of the games on the list for 5 minutes, and they decide whichever one was the last one that they played, which is the one they remember the most of. They'll give that one the vote.
At least they've actually just got, mobile games this time. Like previous years, they've thrown the 3DS in there as the same category.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense.
Didn't make any sense. Like technically it is a mobile game because it's a mobile device, but there's
The
leaps and
portable
bounds of
device.
difference.
The Switch has pretty much blown the category up, so
Yeah. So they don't call the Switch a mobile game device anymore.
Yeah.
Like, do they even have that category anymore? Like the
Mobile
portable game.
Portable.
Portable
I don't
game?
think
game?
so.
No.
Yeah,
Well,
it doesn't make
well,
sense to anymore because Sony have pulled out of the market and Nintendo have functionally pulled out of the market by turning their main market into that market.
So it's basically give Nintendo a cookie. All right. Best VR AR game we didn't talk about, but it went to Beat Saber.
Unsurprising, Beat Saber's the only one that people like.
Beat Saber is fantastic. I mean, your other choice was Asgard's Wrath, which actually kind of looks kind of cool.
Oh, not Skyrim.
Not Skyrim, Blood and Truth, No Man's Sky, which has been out for years, and Trover Saves the Universe, which is a Rick and Morty game.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh. Ugh.
Filthy
I
word.
don't-
Filthy word.
Ugh.
All right.
So let's talk about the best award.
Okay, best action game. They gave it. Our nominees were Apex Legend, Astral Chain, Modern Warfare, Devil May Cry 5, yay, Gears 5, and Metro Exodus. Both our pick and where we predicted it would go was Devil May Cry 5.
Because they'd have to be absolutely insane not to.
Thankfully, they weren't. They gave it to Devil May Cry 5.
Like, there's nothing else on the list that's even comparable. Astral Chain is the closest it gets.
Yeah. Like,
Like-
Modern Warfare, it's just Modern Warfare. It's the grey paste of gaming. Gears 5 isn't far behind.
Sekiro is closer to being a stealth game. Like, there's action when you're fighting an enemy, sure, but the game is not about reckless action.
Yeah. Apex Legend is a multiplayer hero shooter, which is
And that nobody likes anymore.
No, apparently there's a bit of a resurgence for it at the moment, though.
Yeah,
And-
but it's not astroturfed anymore. And when you have a bit of a resurgence in a game, that means that you're you're converging on your lifetime peak.
Yeah. And Metro Exodus isn't, again, super actiony. It's a lot slower and more thoughtful. So, yeah, Devil May
Yeah.
Cry pretty much just wins by default on that one.
But
This is the only thing that deserves to be in the category, really, other than, as I said, Astral Chain, because it's roughly in the same genre.
Yeah, it was. Astral Chain was made to be in the style of Devil May Cry 5 and Bayonetta,
Well,
etc.,
it
but with a
hasn't-
gimmick.
And it hasn't had the sort of time to mature that Devil May Cry had. Well, I
Yeah,
think that
it's also-
it could get there. It could get there in time, but it's not there yet.
It's also the first game in what'll be an experimental franchise.
Well, that's
They're
what I'm
doing a whole
saying.
lot of
That's what
wonky-
I'm saying by saying that it's not mature yet.
Yeah, it's just the experimental nature of it leads it to play wonky, so there's no way compared to finally getting the perfect Devil May Cry game.
Mhm.
No, I there is a lot of people who say 4 is better, and there's a few people who say 3 is better as well. Like
Nobody says
the
about
fact
2.
is, nobody's going to
Oh.
ever talk about it. But the fact that there is a live debate about whether 3 or 4 or 5 is better, and they have about equal parties on each side, suggests that generally speaking, is a very strong and healthy franchise.
Yes. Okay. Now stop talking about an awesome game. Best action adventure. Nominees were Borderlands 3, Control, Death Stranding, Resi 2, Zelda Link's Awakening, the cutesy remake, and Sekiro.
I don't
Now-
suppose they bothered to explain how this sodding category is defined.
Nope.
It's
The
okay.
Action
Can we
adventure
just
is
give it
just
Devil May Cry
whatever.
again?
We actually, during Rantathon, apparently we picked Death Stranding. We thought this is the one that they would get. That
Well,
probably should get
because
it.
we thought they were going to get a big one.
Yeah. Our pick for their pick actually would have gone to was Control, because it's such a vague category. It could
Yeah,
really
well,
mean anything.
because we didn't know what kind of game Control was for starters.
Yeah.
And the category is vague. Control's genre is vague. It seems like it fits.
Control deliberately seems like it's going out of its way to dodge genres. So it's going to get just lumped in as action adventure, and they call it a day.
Like, whenever something appears in this category, I want to pick the one that I'm the least sure about what genre it belongs to.
At least with Sekiro, when I think of the words action adventure, it fits in my
Yeah.
head
It
in
fits, but-
that slot.
It fits, but it also sort of doesn't fit in a way. Like, I feel like in an action adventure, you're going to be less anal retentive about mechanics.
Hmm.
Whereas Sekiro is played entirely by being anal retentive about mechanics.
Yeah. So that's ultimately where the award went. They gave it to Sekiro, so you can't argue with that.
It deserves an award for sure, because it's a very good entry in its genre. But I don't know that action adventure is really a good description of that genre
Yeah.
by itself.
A lot of people undersell the exploration and adventure aspects of the FromSoft games because they only want to focus on the big boss fights and the mechanical intricacies that come into combat. But the adventure part of it is still very much a part of it, and Sekiro amps this up to 11 with the verticality of the levels and all the
I
exploration.
think that it's just that most people have not really come to the realization that FromSoft games are Metroidvania games. They haven't
the
gotten
public
there
consciousness
yet.
certainly hasn't.
That's what I'm saying. They haven't gotten there yet. But I think that's where we're going to. It getting placed under the heading of action adventure sort of suggests that people are heading that way now.
Mhm.
Like once they start to realize that these are actually all one type of thing, then I think we might see things coalesce, maybe even around different genre names. Because I feel like action adventure is definitely designed to be the generic box when they're
Yeah.
not sure where to stick things, and so you'll end up with weird games in competition with each other. Like, you can't really compare a lot of those games with each other.
Well-
Like, really, what does Borderlands have in common with Sekiro?
What does it
Well,
have
they're
in common
going
with
for-
Resi and Zelda, for that matter?
Yeah, like
They're going-
what is the commonality there?
They're so broad in these topic categories this year for the genres, which has been a pet peeve of mine for a while now. But like, they don't even have a shooter category, I don't think.
Nope. That's just under action this year.
Like, and that's the most prevalent subgenre of action game there is.
It's the shooty bangs.
It's first person shooter.
Yeah.
In fact, it was so prevalent it was considered a mainstream genre for a long time.
Still kind of is. By the way, I would have
Yeah,
given it to Borderlands 3 on that one.
I think that where that's starting to fall apart is that we don't have a Halo every second year, and we've only got Call of Duty every year. Like, there's not a raft of new shooters every year anymore.
Even Call
Yeah.
of Duty and Battlefield have started to slow down a bit.
Well, I think that is the problem there is that Call of Duty and Battlefield are openly hated by large sectors of the gaming community.
Mm-hmm.
So if they ended up having to give an award to one of those for whatever reason they decided to give it, they would lose credibility.
Well, that certainly applies if it's Call of Duty Mobile.
Because I'm pretty sure that they're trying to farm credibility with this show, generally speaking, year over year. And
Yeah.
I feel that's probably why they've been so far away from Kojima this time, is because they know that their reputation rests on them not looking like Kojima's pet.
Give it to games that people actually appreciated.
I mean, there are some people that really do like Death Stranding a lot, but I feel like it's an auteur project. It's not really a game with wide mass appeal.
Norman Reedus and his fantastic fetus.
Like even a game that requires a good deal of skill to play well.
Right, you haven't heard that
oh
one?
my- You haven't?
No, I hadn't heard that before.
But yeah, even a game that requires a great deal of skill to play well, like Devil May Cry 5 or Sekiro, they're both still games with mass appeal. Like, everybody hears about them, everybody thinks about what this game is like to play, even if they don't play it. I don't think that people really think that about Death Stranding. I think when they look at Death Stranding, they say, "Ugh, weird Kojima thing."
Yeah.
When you think about Sekiro or Devil May Cry 5, you think that's a video game. It's got video gamey things that can video game. let's talk about the video game parts. With Death Stranding, you think about Norman Reedus
Naked Norman
and his
Reedus.
naked butt cheeks.
Yeah, like Naked Norman Reedus was pretty much the design document for the game.
It's where they started. It's like, okay, we have Naked Norman Reedus. Now what?
That's literally how they started development. But it's worth keeping in mind, though, that the video game with video game look and video game features is the sort of thing that the media edifice really hates.
Yes.
They hate having to play their video games.
All right, moving on. Here's some more video games. Best RPG was Disco Elysium, Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers, Kingdom Hearts 3, Iceborne, and Outer Worlds, not Outer Wilds.
Why is Iceborne on this list and not in an action game category?
Yeah, like the whole point of that game is real-time combat against monsters.
Yeah. But it's got
Like,
RPG
it's-
elements, so they crammed it into RPG.
It's got stats, that's all it's got.
It's got stats. Stats apparently equal RPG elements these days.
Like,
So Sekiro is an RPG. I mean,
Yeah.
you play a role, you play a dude. I mean,
You got stats.
you got stats.
You got stats.
you don't have traditional stats in Sekimuro. But
The key part of a role-playing game is you need to play a role.
it's just the key part of a role-playing game, as far as the mainstream media is concerned, is it has numbers, I guess.
I guess. Like Monster Hunter World, yeah, okay, you're playing as a hunter, but your hunter doesn't really
You can't
contribute
even
much.
level up, and you don't have personality.
No,
And nobody can tell you what the numbers do anyway.
no. So
Do
we
you know
picked.
what percentage of damage 15 fire res does? I don't. That's why I take it all the way up to like 40 or something when we go out and do anything.
I don't. I take it up to -7.
That's an improvement over your usual, at least. So we picked Disco Elysium because it is, aside from Final Fantasy XIV, it's probably the most RPG on this list.
I've heard a lot of people denounce it as basically a visual novel. Like I don't know if it's just salt in the wake of the Game Awards itself, but I saw a lot of people saying they didn't think that it really deserved to be called an RPG because while it has RPG elements, it's mostly just you talking to people and walking around.
Yeah, that sounds visual novelty to me. Did we just
And
change
of
our vote
course-
to say Outer Worlds or
And
Final
it's-
Fantasy?
Instead of having a moral, a karma meter or a moral spectrum, they have a political compass.
You know you've gone too far when you've got a political compass.
I am so glad I kept my yap shut when we were talking about this game during the rantathon.
We're kind of looking a bit silly now, aren't we?
Y'all are. I kept my mouth shut whenever Disco Elysium came up because
I've
move that.
always been very emphatic when all of my impressions come from social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I always repeat the fact that I've not played it. I have just heard these people say these things, and a lot of the people that I saw on social media were very, very positive about it. And as time went on, they stopped being positive about it.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to move our pick actually over to Final Fantasy XIV because that game continues to be great.
I haven't even got that fate because I'm still waiting for you jokers.
I keep getting distracted by shiny things.
I'm going to have 3 weeks where I can't play it because my laptop can't handle it.
Ew. Okay, so yeah, the award ultimately went to Disco Elysium. Thankfully, that's the last of the Disco Elysium awards.
Yeah, and a lot of people
That's
are
still-
suspicious about them getting
what?
4 awards, more than anyone
it-
else.
Yeah.
It's,
Was it 4? Yeah, it was. Holy crap.
They just
Yeah, 4
so
awards.
happen to share the most extreme politics with the people who are giving out the awards.
If only the voters, the people on this panel, had been good enough to hear the music in Devil May Cry 5 as they play, they would have just been. They would have sawn the light.
If only they'd be good enough to get through the prologue.
Sawn, really?
Sawn.
Seed.
Best
Seed, really?
I'm just finding new ways to butcher it now after I already did it by accident once.
Best fighting game was Dead or Alive 6, Boobies, 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 Jump Force, Mortal Kombat 11, Samurai Showdown, and Smash Bros.
Did it go to
So,
Smash Bros? Tell
it
me
went
it
to-
didn't go to
yeah.
Smash-
It went to Smash Bros.
Oh,
We actually, from Rantathon, I think we're getting a bit fatigued at this point because for some reason we did actually put our pick as...
Oh, I remember this
There's-
discussion.
Yeah.
Right.
But Mortal
So,
Kombat,
yeah.
we predicted that they would actually give it to Mortal Kombat 11 because of the Jax storyline.
yeah,
Oh, right.
yeah. I'm not really surprised that we thought that.
Yeah,
Um,
Samurai
Well, we DQ'd
They had another avenue to discharge their progressive urges. So
we disqualified Samurai Showdown because it was on the Stadia and didn't work,
it was a disaster.
and Jump Force because
It was complete garbage.
it's garbage.
Yeah,
I
we
think
DQ'd 3 of these off the bat. One has boobies, that's DQ'd. No
Yeah.
judge is going to pick that. One is broken, and one is got net play of Stadia.
Yeah. Incidentally, there was a couple of Stadia ads that kept playing through this thing, and they both everything they said in them was either a lie or surrealist nonsense.
Yeah, well, everybody knows now. Like it's just sad, tragic denial at this point.
Yeah.
Well, they
This
probably
is-
purchased the ads for this thing months ago.
Oh yeah,
Probably, yeah.
for sure, because it takes a very long time for Keeley to get all the funding together for this thing. But
Yeah.
I think that we're not too far out from seeing the thing get quietly put on the back burner and then eventually retired the way the Google every other thing was.
The Google everything.
Yeah. Like realistically, they haven't managed to keep very many things in the marketplace.
Yeah. They have not. They've got a few things that work and stuck around, and that's it. Alright, next category. Best Family Game. Luigi's Mansion 3, Ring Fit Adventure, Super Mario Maker 2, Smash Brothers, and Yoshi's Crafted World.
This was the Nintendo freebie.
Yeah. I got
Oh, yeah.
outvoted. I wasn't allowed to vote for Luigi. Just in Luigi in general. But
Well, you don't like Luigi?
I love Luigi. Luigi's awesome. I don't like
So why are
Mario.
you not allowed to vote for Luigi?
Yeah, Luigi's not a game though. Luigi starred in 3 of these games, but he's not a game.
Oh,
so-
you just wanted to vote for Luigi the person, not
Yes.
the Luigi game.
Luigi in general. So
But-
both our pick, our prediction, and ultimately the award all went to Luigi's Mansion 3.
It seems like an obvious pick.
Looks like such a good game. I want to play it, but I'm not quite fiscally irresponsible for that at the moment. Although Nintendo is having their Christmas sale, so maybe they've got it on discount.
Thought you were going to move.
Well, no, that's being thrown around and people getting far too far ahead of themselves.
Ah, I see.
Wait,
Your family members trying to run your life for you.
My brother's actually just lost his roommate and he's looking for a replacement.
Oh, so he's got an ulterior motive.
Yes, he wants to keep that place. It's the smack in the middle of Brisbane, right next to a train station and across the road from all the shops he could ever need.
But it's also in Brisbane.
It is also in Brisbane. Moving on, best strategy game: Age of Wonders Planetfall, Anno 1800, Fire Emblem 3 Mouses, Total War 3 Kingdoms, Tropico 6, and Wargrove.
Only one of these had a chance to win because of popularity alone.
Yeah, and that was where we figured the award actually would go in the first place, and that was Fire Emblem.
Fire Emblem Waifu Simulator 2.
We
or whatever.
didn't, I believe from memory, we didn't actually pick one for ourselves. I just slapped it on Planetfall because I love Planetfall. Tropico 6 is ultimately the same thing as the previous Tropico games, which are still great, but nothing spectacularly new. Total War 3 is exactly the same thing as the previous Total War games.
And honestly, they've all been kind of soggy lately.
Yep. Anno is hard. It's a strategy game, yes, but it's more of a management game.
I would have thought that was like a Sim City.
It
That's
is.
what I thought. It's not. I don't think of Sim City as a strategy game.
No, it's a management game with strategy elements. And Wargroove, you get to play as a dog. That's all you need to know about the game. You can lead an army as a dog.
Yeah.
Where were we? Next up.
So, yeah, for the next one, I just want to point out that despite Activision shenanigans, dragging it down, a game from 1999 still beat out everything else on this list.
Yeah. So sports and racing was Crash Team Racing, Dirt Rally 2, PES 2020, what was it, F1 2019, and FIFA 20. So yeah,
Well,
we predicted it
How
would
many
go
of these
to
games? How many of these games are yearly iterations?
Looks
All
like
but
all
one.
of them except for is Dirt Rally? yearly?
No, Dirt isn't. Dirt isn't. So Crash and Dirt are the only ones that
Right.
aren't.
And one of these has way more traction than the other one.
Yeah. So we predicted that it would go to Crash, and we were completely right. Ultimately, I put the crown on Dirt because it's the only one that doesn't ironically, treats their customer base like dirt.
Are you sure about that? Did you check?
I did check, and they've only got the standard slew of microtransactions. No loot boxes, no changing anything after release just to dodge the reviews. Crash Team Racing, looking at you.
Oh, dear.
Not being made by EA or Konami for that matter, I suppose. So-
Speaking of, I've heard that the Mario gacha thing has gotten even worse.
I've heard things about that. Yeah,
The
Nintendo
Mario
seems to have
Kart
just
thing, like,
farmed off that to another company and doesn't seem to care anymore.
it's gone full gacha basically.
Yeah.
I think that's surprisingly immoral coming from Nintendo, given it's a game franchise that is particularly has a strong audience among the very young,
Mm-hmm.
and they are just hooking kids up to the gacha machine as early as possible. I think that there's a very bad precedent.
Nintendo, look at what you're doing. Stop it.
Don't they have really rough gambling laws in Japan?
They do.
Like,
Yeah.
it can't be very long until gachas get pulled in under that because of the increasingly mercenary nature.
Especially if
Okay.
they're paying attention to the global loot box controversy, which is still going on.
Yeah,
Yes.
like, I mean, Japan has always been about getting around those laws, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
because gambling is illegal in Japan, generally speaking, and so they've got pachinko and they've got gacha. Like, it can only be a matter of time until they decide that they're going to go and revise those laws again
That'll put
and try
Konami out
and
of
catch
business.
things this time.
Yeah. So
Yeah, nobody cares if Konami goes out of business. They have no
Nobody
friends.
cares. All right. Best multiplayer game: Apex Legends, Borderlands 3, Call of Duty: Modern Warfare, Tetris 99, and Division 2.
You know, Division 2 has the strongest community. I think that I personally would have more fun playing a Borderlands game. None of the others sound very appealing to me.
Yeah, we ultimately decided on Division 2 as our pick. We figured they go to Apex Legends because that's where the money is coming from, and hey, we were right.
Yeah, when you're looking for sponsors for a show like this, some people you can't turn away.
Yep. We're getting close to... Well, actually, this is probably the last category we've got slides for this year. So, best community support of the year. Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers, Fortnite, and Rainbow Six Siege. We picked, of course, Final Fantasy XIV because that game continues to be incredible. As does Yoshi P continue to be a troll.
Yeah, but he's a troll. He's a troll in an honest fashion and in public.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't tell you lies about what they're going to do the way Blizzard does. If he isn't planning on doing something, he'll just say we don't have that planned yet. And
Yeah.
if he's announcing, if he doesn't know what he's going to do, he'll say, "Oh, we'll figure something out. Please look forward to it." So,
Yeah. Or occasionally he'll play coy on something they're just about to announce. So we figured it would go to Apex Legends because, again, money, but it actually went to Destiny 2.
well, I figured that was a possibility since
Yeah.
they're basically their reimagining of the game has been very much more player focused than the original management was.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Like
just
you
gonna-
can,
In terms of most improved, that's probably where you're going to go.
yeah. I think we've decided ultimately not to put our pick there because it's still too early.
Yeah, because they haven't actually proved it yet.
Yeah, they're making all the right noises. And now that I've actually played with the game, I appreciate having options to go and buy a new spaceship right from the get-go for relatively little glimmer. They're all kind of bland looking, but hey, I can customize that a little bit. All right.
And you'll want to customize your spaceship because you're going to be staring at it for a long time in them loading screens.
The loading screens on the PC actually aren't that bad.
Yeah, I guess it was designed to be able to be played on a what? PS4,
PS3.
Yeah.
PS3. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well,
So if it's designed to play on
one's
PS.
PS3.
Well, it was. Is there a Destiny 2 for PS3? Like, did they make a PS3 version?
No, the Wikipedia page is loading.
Well,
No, there is no
e-
PS3 version for
Even
Destiny 2.
if it was just base model PS4, most people who have a gaming PC, their gaming PC will outmass that pretty considerably.
Yeah.
And since the architecture is the same for the Xbone and the PS4 and a PC, it's not a huge difference in technology to port over. So like even people like me who don't really have a Ninja gaming PC can probably load it pretty quickly.
Yeah. So the loading times on PC are actually quite good now. Having options like being able to actually choose what you want to play right at the start of the game rather than having it unlocked. Everything is nice.
The thing, it was not just that you had to go out and unlock it, but you had to drop what you were doing and go off and do some random crap.
Point defense crap.
Yeah, like I was in the middle of something, people.
Yeah. The game is still forcing me to fraternize with other people, though, and I don't want to do that.
Fraternize?
I want to do a strike on my own because I hate
So-
bugging.
Does it have, now that it's on PC, does it have full crossplay as well?
Yes.
Maybe I can play with you sometime during the holidays if you're on. If you
Sure.
feel the strong urge to play that game for some reason.
I just tend to. Like last week, I just been, I feel like shooting something, pick it up and potter around for a bit.
Yeah,
What is-
when I play it, it's usually like I'll succumb to the urge to put my VR helmet on and then I'll feel sick.
There you go.
It's
All
a
right.
great podcast game.
It is a fantastic podcast game. So, Game Awards done. They announced a whole bunch of other stuff as well. So I'm just going to plow through these. Let me find the correct slide. It's here somewhere. I got to clean out OBS. It's getting a bit messy. Here we are. Okay, I suppose we'll start at the top for the memeiest of the memes. Xbox announced a new console. It's this.
The Necron Monolith.
Yeah,
The poster.
hang on. I'm going to actually just change this image here. Let me see. There we go. That's better. So, yes, the Xbox fridge. The Xbox Series X has been announced, and they haven't said a whole lot really about it, about exactly what it is and what it can do.
It's a receptacle for cigarette ash, isn't it?
It could also be a rocket launcher, if you look at it from the top.
It's a Chinese to-go box, isn't it?
I just feel like, kneeling before this thing and evolving. So, the memes took all of 30 seconds to start rolling, as expected. Now, I'm going to show something here that Xbox has walked into, because apparently they didn't fire the guy who named the Xbox One.
Yeah.
So, we've got the Xbox Series X. Someone is going to
Why?
abbreviate that
Why?
to the...
Why would you?
They're going to abbreviate it to the Microsoft SX. I'm not going to
Okay.
finish in the rest of that because you can see exactly where that's going.
Okay, this has to be intentional. They had to know this was happening. They had to have done it deliberately.
Yeah,
There's
maybe
no way.
they're just pushing the envelope at this point.
They're pushing something.
At this point, they know that people calling it the Xbox Sexy Time is going to get them attention.
Yeah, nobody will forget. Once it's got that appellation, nobody will forget.
The Microsoft Sex Box. All are welcome. All are welcome.
Just can, we have to delineate and the verbiage and nounage we use when we talk about these stupid Xboxes because they're dumb name scheme. Just think about what we're going to be saying in 2022.
Oh, yeah,
And
we're
we
going to be
have
talking
to-
about the
No,
Sex Box.
No,
The
the rea-
Xbox Sex.
no. You've got it all wrong. The reality is that nobody will talk about it at all because everybody will be playing their games on PC.
True. Essentially, from the little bits and pieces that have leaked out about the Sex Box, it's pretty much just a PC you hook up to your TV.
Yeah, and you with the Xbox, the Microsoft Game Pass thingy majiggy, like it's totally irrelevant to even own one.
Yeah, I can play all my Xbox games on the PC with that.
So
Not all of them, but
we won't need to call it this in 2 years' time or whatever because nobody will ever use the word ever
nope.
because people will have forgotten that the sodding thing exists.
Just make PCs, Microsoft.
Like how many people even remember that the Xbone is a thing on the market at this point?
Not many.
I can't even call to mind what it looks like.
It's a black box.
I don't
I don't
know.
know anybody
Even
that
if
owns
you say it's a black box, I still can't call anything to mind. I have no idea what it looks like. I know exactly what the 360 looks like. I don't know
Mhm.
anything about what the X-Bone looks like.
Yeah,
Or the
X-Bone
other
looks
kind
like
of
a black
X-Bone.
bone. It also there's just variations of size and shape of black box. And look at that, the sex box is a black box.
And a very strange form factor.
Yes, this thing is not going to fit neatly into anyone's entertainment unit.
If you got really creative, you could probably use it as a.
I have seen a picture of someone using it as a stand for a coffee table to put their PS5 on.
I'm pretty sure that there's an awful lot of like Custodes theme, it's Custodes level double entendre, which could be extracted from this discussion.
Yes, so talking about body oil and quiveringness.
Generally speaking, I'm talking about, you just given the abbreviation that is likely to become the name of this thing in the short term, like there's an awful lot of terrible places to go.
Yeah. So
Thrust our sex box deeply into the chest
No,
of PC
no.
game.
no,
hang on.
no.
No. It's worrying, actually. I have this slide handy.
Damn it, Fergus.
The Nope. So, the next game that decided it was just going to screw with people at this point was... We're going to actually move on pretty quick here. So, No More Heroes 5 did this thing
Uh-huh.
where it started off as looking like
Wait, we're up
something
to
that...
5?
No More Heroes
wait.
3, sorry.
Okay, because like, if I've been asleep for half a decade or something,
Well, yes. But you haven't missed any
Ew.
No More Heroes games.
So,
So, yeah, they kind of started this cartoon with this Don Bluth-looking thing of a kid releasing his alien back to the wild. Then said alien comes back and is a goddamn superhero, as they call it.
I see.
So it was all setting up for this game called Goddamn Superheroes. And then Travis Touchdown comes in and ruins the whole thing.
so I actually thought the ad was fairly creative.
Yeah.
And memorable. That was good advertising. We don't know anything about the video game.
So
But,
nothing has changed.
Nothing has
but-
changed.
If you're gonna do a teaser like that, they made it memorable at least.
Yep. So I'm going to skip through these other ones really, really quick because, yeah, we're kind of hitting up on time. We got an announcement of a remake for Bravely Default 2 for the Switch.
I've heard that the previous ones are all very, very good, but I've never had the time to play them.
I've played through
I heard
half
the
of the
fir-
first one.
I played through some of the first one, never finished it.
We've got Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance, which is not to be confused with Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, even though they both
Oh,
got
but-
drizzed.
Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance was great. You could play it with someone who was a total pleb and still keep them alive.
As long as they weren't drizzed. Because then
Yeah,
you'd have
as
to
long
punch
as
them in the
they-
face.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was the breaks.
Yeah.
Nobody likes Drist. Did Ari go through a Drist liking phase?
I was very anti-Dritz, but I was a big Jarlaxle and Artemis Centauri dude for when I did read the books.
Right.
Jarlaxle was okay. It is worth noting, of course, that Dark Alliance also had the worst trailer of the night. They did this really a weird thing, like they're in combat and they're doing that thing where the camera is locked to someone's face, but their body freely moves around.
Well, that's just weird.
It always
I
looks
don't
like
know why
something made
people
in
think that's cool.
Gmod,
Yeah.
even
Yeah,
when real
it does.
people do it. We have the revival of Telltale. We have a confirmed Wolf Among Us 2.
It's back in dev.
Who's making it?
Yeah.
Telltale doesn't exist.
I don't know. This is the same question I asked. And I couldn't find an answer for it.
It's got Telltale's logo on it.
Yeah, that's what confused me.
Did somebody just buy them?
I think they
Or
did, actually.
forcibly, or use raw money to forcibly reform the studio?
I think a bit of both.
Or does Telltale... Did nobody want to buy the actual IP and just hire the old Telltale guys to make this one game as contractors?
I hope they're not going to go back and make more Walking Dead.
Ugh.
Please don't make
We
more.
waste
have
Waste of time.
an entry from China, Naraka Blade Point, which has a really annoying soundtrack by the sound of it.
Doesn't matter. It's China. Can't buy it.
China don't have any taste in, this sort of
I
the
watched
artistic elements of a video game at all.
I
They
watched
always
the
look
trailer
trashy.
and I thought, why would I play this when Sekiro exists? Do I want to play as Mr. Nipples?
They copyright.
They copyright. We have Godfall from the guys who made Borderlands. Basically, from the sound of it, it's Borderlands but Melee.
I like Melee.
As also pushed through the whatchamacallit, Skyforge universe.
So they aren't letting Birch write it, right?
I hope not. And we have, after watching the Magic trailer, which was confusing because apparently it's someone stuck in the world of the dead and everything, and then getting dragged into the world of the dead somehow. I was thinking, hey, we've never actually seen the Magic universe in a game properly. So they announced Magic Legends, the Magic the Gathering based MMO.
Yeah, fantasy MMO. What could go wrong?
It's fantasy, it's urban fantasy, it's all kinds of things all lumped together.
Yeah, my overwhelming impression of this was that this was the most surprising one of the night to me, because I thought that the industry had decided that making a fantasy MMO was commercial suicide.
Yeah. Because, well, back in the day, you'd make a fantasy MMO and you'd just run face first into WoW.
Well, even now though, more recent ones they just haven't gained traction. Like the only one that's really going from strength to strength right now is Final Fantasy XIV. Like World of Warcraft has got to try and rally now. Like they're desperately trying to rally.
Yep.
And all of the other ones that have come out in recent years have just not really gained traction at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, things like Bless and whatchamacallit.
Bless came out and fell immediately on its face.
Even slightly older ones like Arcade, like they don't have the traction they used to. ESO, it doesn't have the traction that it used to. Even it's just not a live proposition, I don't think.
Yeah. We got 2 League of Legends games announced, which both seem to be the same thing. Convergence and For the King, I think it was.
And I just don't care about either of them because they ruined the lore.
Well, one's about Gangplank and the other one's about Echo.
If they wanted to make a Gangplank game, they need to clone Assassin's Creed.
The good one.
Like, yeah, the good one. Like, they should have made a comedy version of Assassin's Creed Pirates Edition.
Yeah.
Yeah,
here it is.
Just cut out all the Assassin's Creed bits and all the Google employee bits, and you got yourself a Gangplank game.
Yeah, I did actually do a quick toe dip into Black Flag, and I'd rather faff around on the pirate ship, and instead the game forces me to go off and play Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, you gotta
work for Google.
All right,
Yeah,
moving on really, really quick. We have Path of the Warrior. It's Streets of Rage, except in VR. Because reasons, apparently. We have...
People aren't interested in VR games, I'm sorry.
Yeah. We have Senua Saga Hellblade 2, which Senua seems to be channeling Nina Struthers all of a sudden.
I just don't care about that series. It doesn't look compelling to me at all. But everybody talks about it being good, but it's never even drawn my eye.
This trailer's got me interested in the second one just for the themes alone. Because it's a very, very impactful trailer. It's just very cool.
Well, I mean, if they can write a cool story about a cool protagonist, then fine. If it's a story about an empowered woman protagonist, you can miss me with that.
Well, I don't know. She spends the first game running around carrying someone's severed head.
Well, the thing they did that in that what was it? That chainsaw game.
Well, yeah, nobody talks about that game.
Yeah, exactly. So,
that was awful.
But what I'm saying is that being a good character that is powerful and effective at carrying out their will within their setting is not the same thing as being an empowered woman protagonist. An empowered woman protagonist's actions will have no connection to reality whatsoever.
You generally run around being an arsehole to people.
Generally, I heard good things about the first one, although I just wasn't interested in playing it. The second one, like if they give it a real budget, maybe they can do something good with it.
Yeah.
Or they may just drown in the budget, which also happens sometimes.
That happens as well. We're reaching the end here. You got a sequel to Surgeon Simulator, which from the trailer is about nerdy duplicates running around and faffing about in a hospital.
Wasn't Surgeon Simulator like a game jam game or something?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I think that's like trying to replicate a meme. I'm not sure that's a very good idea.
yeah. And finally, we have Weird West, which is an ARPG, but it's made by that crew that split off from Bethesda and Co.
Is this different from the Outer Worlds people?
Yes.
How many different groups have fractured off of Bethesda?
Too many. Well, this is all
Almost as many as Blizzard.
from memory. This was the cancerous bit that fell off.
Ah, I see.
So yeah, like there was announcements of other things like another expansion for Elder Scrolls Online, which was Skyrim.
Yeah, when was the last time BioWare announced something?
BioWare's probably in the doghouse at the moment.
I imagine their employees have been put on hold or put on other projects after the disaster that was Andromeda.
Yeah, you've got Warframe.
Well,
has
I was
decided
thinking
to
more about Anthem. Like, it's probably Anthem.
It's probably
Like,
Anthem. Yeah.
I guess.
Or did I say Andromeda? I meant Anthem.
I guess that they're trying to devote all their efforts to salvaging that project.
Yeah. What else? Warframe said, "Hey, we've tired of being space ninjas. Let's be space pirates, and we're going to do it immediately."
Warframe does move at quite a clip.
Yeah. So it's because here you go, suddenly space pirates, and we're space ninjas doing intergalactic space battles because space.
So they needed to have an intergalactic argument over whether space ninjas or space pirates were better.
Yes. As it turns out, I think they just went with both at the same time. Gears Tactics. I mean, if there's a franchise, a first-person shooter franchise that's going to make the transition to a tactical strategy game, it would be Gears because it already centers around chest-high walls.
I guess I haven't. It hasn't occurred to me to take Gears at all seriously since they did that weird Funko Pop thing.
Yeah, that's still a thing apparently.
Yeah.
That's really about it. There's a few other things, but we don't really have time. It's actually time for us to pack up.
It's time for Fern to pack up and run away, you mean?
Sadly, yes.
Yeah. So we're at the end of the year then. For
Yeah.
us as a show.
Another year.
Another
It's
year.
it's been an interesting year.
It's been a
It's
stupid
been a year
year.
where it has been, but it's a year when we've all finally settled into our jobs and
Which sucks horribly.
yeah.
I want to unsettle from it and get a better job that allows me to play video ever.
We're figuring out our lives. We're making progress.
I don't
been a
think
very-
that.
We're gonna tell ourselves we are, because if we don't, then everything's terrible forever. But yeah, played some Vidya this year. Some good Vidya came out this year.
Indeed it did. I don't have high hopes for next year.
No.
There's some interesting stuff on the horizon, but there's also plenty of time for it to be ruined.
Yeah, I mean, gaming years coming on and off. It seems like last year was not a very hot year for gaming,
No.
but this year and the year before that were.
Yeah.
So if next year is a bit of downtime, there's plenty of good games for people to poke at.
To be fair, this year also had like It Just Works.
It just works.
Like I think
count that as a net
we
positive.
had more comical gaming news about disastrously failed projects this year than in any year I can remember.
Let's face it, a lot of that, 90% of that was Fallout 76.
Or Anthem,
Or Anthem.
Yeah.
Epic Store shenanigans.
Yeah.
It was quite the year.
It was entertaining at least to watch some certain large companies face plant down the stairs.
This is one of the few times I'm glad we're old farts, because it lets us know not to get wrapped into these shenaniganeries that go on with these companies and these projects, and we're getting very good at spotting them from a mile away. So
I mean, we totally called Anthem. Actually, a lot of people totally called Anthem.
it wasn't that hard to call, to be
No,
fair.
that was a very obvious call.
I
Same
had
with the
to
Fallout
stretch.
76.
I was stretching when it first got announced to give it the benefit of the doubt.
I
It's-
didn't give it the benefit of the doubt when it came out. I assumed it would fail horribly.
Jetpacks
I didn't-
improve a lot of things. They ain't improving that.
So, but yeah. So instead of being suckered into these things and feeling all down and depressed about it, we get to sit and laugh at them because we're like, look at all these idiots that bought into this thing. Couldn't they see that this was going to be a disaster?
I wish that they wouldn't buy into these things so that they would stop making them.
After this year, I think we're going to hit a critical point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think we
we've
are
got to
getting
be
very
approaching
close
it.
to it. Yeah. There's just too much silly bull crap has happened.
Yeah, it makes it
Nobody
very
is
hard to
gonna win.
ignore.
Yeah, nobody is going to trust anybody who's a game dev. Not after this year.
Yeah, because every game dev is now either trying to present themselves as a political actor or just a tendril of Bobby Kotick. So
Ew. I do not want to think about Bobby Kotick's tendrils.
They're very slimy.
And there we go. Hang on. I just got to bring the note back. There we go.
Nope.
Nope.
They're all over that Death Star made of money.
All right. We got to go. So let's do the thing.
So Fern's got to leave. So we'll see y'all next year. We will be back on not the 21st, not the 28th, the 4th.
Yes, the 4th, or the 5th for us.
Yeah, 4th, 5th. So you will not see us the 21st or the 28th on that weekend because
Well, unless you come on Discord.
yeah, you might.
We'll be
catch us then.
around.
We'll be around probably a bit less because it's Christmas time.
I'll be crawling under my rock as usual.
Yep. And yeah, we'll have some fun stuff. We'll figure out maybe something fun to do at the start of the year if we have time. We'll just kind of play it by ear and see how it goes. And yeah, thanks for the 2 of you that have stuck around with us this whole year. That we haven't managed to drive off somehow. You people are nuts, and we appreciate it.
Crazy people. Are the
So,
best people.
Yep, I wholeheartedly agree. But I think that's it. I'm shuffling through to make sure I'm not forgetting anything.
Nope.
And yeah, looks like we're good. All right, folks. Y'all got anything to say before I send us out?
We see you next year for another year of I don't even know what.
Yeah. Have a good break, everyone. Make sure to use the time wisely to rest up because the world does not wait for you.
All right, folks. Merry Christmas. Sayonara. Bye-bye.